to see if he was barefoot. Is that still the case? Is he barefoot? Because I know on Facebook somebody posted a picture of these could be his shoes, or is that so he is presumed to be barefoot at this point?
What I can say is that his mom says all of his shoes are accounted for at the house. I'm not going to say that he's barefoot.
All right.
Allegedly!
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. Here's a brief disclaimer for tonight's show. Let's watch.
That's ignorant! Allegedly, that's ignorant! Ignorant!
Judgment, Arthur.
Chloe, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinning.
You mean shining?
Shh! You wanna get sued?
Judgment, Arthur.
You just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a-running. But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time.
Hey, yo, boss. I love it when he does that.
Let's watch.
Don't get me back to good bullshit.
Everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative, and it's so good to see all of you today. Thank you so much for being here. I had to push the live up just a little bit. I can't lie, I was over listening to Jay, an interview from a little while back, right? And I was very interested to hear it. GA64, good evening, and thank you for being here. And hi, Ann Reynolds. Sorry that your internet's out. I guess you guys are getting storms, I read. And a lot of people are having internet problems, GA64 says. Oh, my goodness. And I didn't know your mom lived up in Missouri, well, up in Missouri for me now. GA64, very, very cool. And blessed, good evening. Thank you for being here. And Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom, oh my gosh, you had me tripping with your email. I was like, oh, we got to talk about shoes. tonight. So lots to talk about, but I wanted to really go over this interview with Peter Hyatt, the late great Peter Hyatt. Hey, Mama Bear, good to see you. South Central PA in the house. Oh, it's slow, but pain settling in my bones. Oh, telling me it's gonna. Yeah, the rain's coming. Oh yeah, I can feel it like in my knees sometimes. Yep, I hear you, Mama Bear. Oh, I'm so sorry. I know it's painful, like when it gets muggy outside, that's usually um, when all the pains come, right? Got to send some rain to Nashville. I heard that Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom. You guys like have a drought. Everything's drying up, and I heard. Hey, Cal Gal, good to see you. And Sea Star, good to see you. The shoes, perfectly imperfect. I was like, what? And then before I even looked, I only looked at the shoes. I didn't look at the ones where you showed me the tongue with the sizes, or I might not have even believed you. No, I'm just teasing. And I'm like, wait a minute, are these two sizes? And she says, yeah. And I was like, oh shoot, I already saw that. Sorry, I saw that. But it is. Now the way the shoes are, like one's a little bit more narrow than the other, but I'll show you guys either way. But I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy because it doesn't look like a huge difference in two sizes. I will just say that. Hey Sabrina, good to see you. So hey Shadow, and I was thinking that's quite a bit, but boys are different, you know. Oh, GA64 says live in Oklahoma, about 3 hours away from mom. Aw, so not so far. Yeah. Um, Oklahoma is not far at all. Same with Kansas too. Um, Ann says you'll be getting some rain tomorrow. Perfectly imperfect boy, mom. So, yeah, I wanted to go over this interview. So we'll get started on it, and then I'm going to pull in because that's why I didn't go on my phone or anything cam up tonight because I had other things I was doing on there, and also doing some research on more about Pigfest, right? I'm figuring out where some of these connections lie, and then we lie, oddly enough. But there are a lot of connections that are very odd, and it could be because it's a small area. But I think it's worth noting anyway. But just lots to talk about tonight. Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, when there's no rain and when it's so hot, you know. Okay, guys, so this is full credit to Peter Hyatt. And this is um, right before Web Sleuth's interview uh, with, here we go. Let me just do this. Um, okay, there we go. This is right before the Web Sleuth's interview because even Chloe Pi had mentioned, on the show, hey, this is, something that we're going to be going over. Or, well, what she said is that Peter Hyatt was really good and Seth was on there. I think that's pretty much all she said. I don't think they went over it in that one actually. Um, Come to think of it. So I think she just kind of mentions it. But I do plan on going over more of the Web Sleuth's interview. Um, so Mama Bear says Brandy Vaughn, Monkey's mom, as her liver transplant was a success. Keep her in your prayers. All continues to go well, please. Yes, Mama Bear. I did share that update yesterday. Was it, or was it this morning? Oh boy. Either way, I did share the update because I was really happy to see that, because the one that I shared to begin with was just like, she was being flown to the hospital and things like that. But I'm super excited. Talk about a good mama. Thanks, G64. Yeah, and thank you for the reminder too, because, everything moves so fast and, sometimes people don't come in until a little bit later and they don't hear things. So thanks, Mama Bear. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. So, yeah, let's get right into this interview with Peter Hyatt and Seth Rogers.
Greetings and welcome to this video. Um, I purposed to come on and just talk about a singular theme of what I believe to be the key to finding missing 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers, um, hopefully alive, but as the time has gone on, it was, I think, February 26th. We're reaching 2 months. It becomes much more difficult for anyone to hold on to hope that way. While I was getting set for this, Seth reached out and I invited him to come on. So he's here, and I'd like to just to address this one particular issue that I think is very important. What prompted me to want to do this, and I'm pleased to have Seth, and I recognize that this is a nightmare, that the only way to survive it is perhaps some form of denial as time goes on for him. But it was a recent video that someone sent me of Sebastian's mother, that and some of the reactions within social media that were, I think, concerning. I'm not sure how distracting they really are, but there's a lot of information that is listed as breaking and bombshell, and life continues to go on, days continue to pass, and Sebastian is not found or recovered. In a recap for the case, and I won't make you wait as I hand the key, which is still another mystery itself, but a recap is 15-year-old boy with autism was reported missing. I've interviewed a lot of kids over the years through Child Protective Services that had autism. It seemed to me, experientially, that no two were alike. And I had to adjust in the moment to be able to reach them. And there's some similarities of muted emotions or irregulated emotions. And parents know how difficult that is, and have better insight than me going from interview to interview and then moving on. When he went missing, I think the first thing that everyone kind of recognized is there's a step parent involved, and when there's a high needs child, the risk it's a risk factor. It's something that is taken into consideration because it is really difficult, and parents will tell you how difficult that is, and they need family support, and they need as much help from a community as they can get. I mean, it's really difficult, and they make mistakes, they lose tempers, they struggle, and to say otherwise just isn't reality. And so there's a risk factor. Oh no, number one is a high needs child, autism, has gone missing. They're going to have behaviors. Some of them are runaways, some of them are not. Some of them will bury themselves under blankets, in dark corners. They'll hide. It's all very different, but it's a tragedy that we might see on the television, for example, but not live. So it's right off the bat. And then we had the presence, according to what we saw in the news, the presence of a stepfather. But the first thing, and that's a risk factor, but the first thing that comes up in this was silence. That an investigator will ask, well, who was the last person to see Sebastian alive? Under whose watch did a child go missing? That's just the 101, the beginning where things begin. And so the public responded, I think, from at least what I read, they were angry. Why are these people being silent? And it goes against especially a mother's instinct. The father is protect, protect, protect. The mother is nurture, nurture, nurture. These things come from creation. These are God-given. And for a mother to be silent, there's one of two reasons. Generally, there can be others, but either police have revealed to the mother, there's no point in you calling out for your son. We have evidence of his death. The blood, we have this, that. So she begins to go into the wrestle of denial and grieving and then not believing. And it's a lot of emotions. And there could be other reasons, but generally speaking, if a child went missing on a mother's watch and the mother has nothing to hide, they are out front and they're giving a description of Sebastian, including behaviors, even if it's a style of walking, clothing, everything else, of course, but any type of reaction, so people could recognize him. In this sense, she's calling out to him. An interviewer will say, "How are you doing?" And there's a certain element there.
Okay, guys. So sorry, I was writing some notes here because Peter is highly intelligent. And so even though he's speaking, slowly, I appreciate that, especially when I'm a note taker. But he is, kind of going around telling us a lot of information, right? So first risk factor would be the stepfather in the home, right? So a step parent in the home. I'm not trying to throw fathers under the bus, guys. I'm really not. We see all kinds of cases all the time where, mom has done this, dad has done this, whatever. Right? Under whose watch did the child go missing? Another very important detail to remember. So if we're just, making a timeline, right, of what are the risk factors and what questions we have, those are two really good ones, right? Because, of course, if it was Seth, whose care Sebastian was in when he went missing, we'd be asking Seth these questions. We'd really want to speak with Seth. So in this case, it's Katie. We know that, and we want to speak with Katie. We would like her to be honest, right? But the stepfather is a risk factor. However, for all intents and purposes here lately, we might just say that stepdad, was in Memphis, right? And we've been doing that here. And the reason being is because I'm not going to argue a bunch of different points. I'm guessing, though, that if they did have any evidence of Chris in the area, then maybe he might be in jail. I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of research that I've been doing on the back end, and it shows a lot of connections in terms of the sheriff, being buddy with Chris and Katie, and people that are in their circle, right? An inner circle. C-Star, I agree. Rest in peace, Peter Hyatt. Hey, Holly S. Let's see. We have Miss Lori. Thank you for being here, Lori. And you're welcome, Mama Bear. It's my pleasure. I've never reviewed Peter before. I've watched him. I've watched all of these, but I never had a chance to review him, and I thought it was a great time to do that. Mama Bear says if it was Sebastian that took the trash to the curb, he threw on a jacket or a hoodie to do that. Right. Yeah, that's my understanding, Mama Bear. Further emphasizes Sebastian wouldn't run off in the middle of the night without a jacket. That is such a good point, right? If he's going to put a hoodie on to take the trash out, why wouldn't he do that if he knew he was going to take a walk somewhere, right? Or meet someone up the road or any of that? Because it just gets colder and colder as the night goes on. And especially at, around the early morning hours, it's pretty chilly out, right? Great point, Mama Bear. And why are these people being silent, right? I mean, here's Seth, and Peter Hyatt again. He's a more soft-spoken guy. He's highly intelligent, but Seth is sitting there just listening to him quietly, listening to Peter, go on and on, right, about his theories, and Seth is sitting there listening, right? He gets up to grab a drink, but again, this is not Peter Hyatt is not a drama channel, right? He's not a crama channel. He is an educated, soft-spoken, beautiful soul. And if my child was missing, I would want his commentary. 100%. I could care less what these nasties are saying. That's my opinion. Now, we have mothers that are nurturers, right? Just instinctual, right? That God-given, like Peter says. Mothers who nurture and fathers who protect. Those are kind of our roles, right? That's kind of like what we're used to doing. That's why, like, little girls, they have their little baby dolls, I know I did. Like, oh my gosh, I was such, and now I think dolls are so creepy. But like when I was little, I had my little baby dolls and I had like the stroller, and you know what I mean? And you just, it's just regular, right? But dads protect. They're stronger, right? Physically. And it's just instinctual, right? I mean, if you're married and stuff and like if you hear a noise, you look over, at your guy, right? You're like, hi, you gonna help out here? Kind of need you. It's just like that's how it is. But then you see these dads out there that are fiercely protective of their kids, because we always call ourselves mama bears, but like some of these dads are like fiercely protective over their kids, their babies. And rightfully so. And that's just, part of, like I said, again, just the regular instincts. Peter is a pioneer of statement analysis. Yeah, C-Star, I really enjoy listening to Peter. I do. I really do. And I think this was a great choice for Seth to get some insight as to what's happening, especially from a logical person, because then it kind of like validates what you were thinking, And then he said there's a couple of reasons why, and he doesn't get into the second reason just yet, but I wanted to stop there. But police revealed to mom that there's no point in looking, right? She loses hope. She starts going into the grieving process, right? Which is, part of it is denial, right? The 7 stages of dealing with a death. I think it's Elizabeth Kubler-Ross came up with those. But they're stages, right, that we go through, and a lot of us do. Some of it, we go through the bargaining stage, we go through, the denial. You're losing hope, right? You're like, what if I would have done this? And that's one thing that I don't see with Katie. Everybody says that she's grieving, or those that say that she is grieving, I've never witnessed her bargaining ever. Like, if I would have just done this, and as candid as she's been on some of these panels, and that's never really come out, especially when, in my opinion, they were having some drinks the one night on the panel. So like you would have thought that may have come out a little bit of guilt right there, like tear in your beer kind of a thing, like, oh man, I wish I would have checked on him before bed, something like that, right? But we didn't hear anything like that from Katie. So I beg to differ when people tell me she's grieving, because I don't see it. I'm sorry. The description that the mother will give will be very, or whoever, right? Whoever saw the child last, they should be giving a good description of the child, right? In terms of what they were wearing last, what their what their regular mannerisms are, right? Because you're assuming that somebody's going to see them out, especially if what Katie is stating is true, that Sebastian walked out of the house, right? So then he's out there somewhere, and we want to see if somebody could spot him, Yeah, POS for a moment, in my opinion, right? Well, and it's one of those things too, Lori, it's crazy because you just expect to see so much of a different response from a mom. Again, everybody's different, but I mean, it's just very apparent, in my opinion, kind of what's going on here. Okay, guys, so we'll play this next little part.
where even the most inflamed mother is going to say, I'm okay, I'm hanging in there, this is a nightmare, and then move the conversation, grab it, move it back to, here's what we're looking, here's where I have to find them, I need your help. Sebastian, if you can hear me, son, run away, get out, call 911, grab any adult. There's this stymieing of maternal instinct that is very powerful, where the mother bear says, no, you can't tell me to be quiet. So they did finally speak out. And when I say they, I'm talking about mother and stepfather. Is the information will lie somewhere there. And when stepfather did most of the talking and was obvious in control, and they seemed to have scripted in the interview, people recognized it. People without training recognized it, saying, uh-oh, this is scary. Listen to this guy. And so people did ask questions, especially after the first interview, and people didn't believe him. And the social media backlash was on these two. And then there's the dad in the background, with this heartache of being distant, but not having knowledge of what happened. Now, when I analyzed that first interview, I said, they've coordinated their statements, their story, and mom is withholding information about what happened. And I'd like to just to give you an idea about it. With the social media and the instant churning of the bombshell and the breaking news, and people have sent me outrageous things, just foolish and outrageous things. And then there's the psychics that I've talked about before, people that call themselves psychics or readers or energy or whatever the wording may be. They're deceivers. And you'll notice if you read enough of them, what they do is they work on the element of vagueness, and they look for those without discernment to bring in. That's all fine and well, and if you'd like to believe that, you can. I don't, and for reasons I can state pretty plainly. But what it comes down to is listening when someone speaks. I had a case years ago where, and this was in correlation with FBI agents working on it, where two young women were murdered in a very rural area. And the case went cold. They found the bodies at the car, and the case went cold over a lot of years. And then they found someone online who was writing a lot about the case. And they said, this guy knows things about the case that only we know. And he's writing about it. And we're able to place him in this rural area at the time the two young women were murdered. And so they were right. He wrote a great deal of information about it. And I had plenty to analyze. And analyze I did. And there are certain things you look for linguistically that connect someone. And it wasn't there. It wasn't there. Remember, he's going to have, the killer is going to have a very strong opinion, even as he tries to conceal it, which this guy didn't, about the victims. There's a need to justify or a need to conceal. But self-preservation kicks in. Many of you saw that with the McCann's early interviews. This was all about them, not about a supposed missing child. And as it turned out, he didn't do it. And so you say, well, how did he know so many things? Is it some kind of psychic or a power beyond the means of understanding that people have? Is he somehow? No, the guy, he was a true crime fan, and he knew, and in my opinion, he accepted human nature for what it is. He knew. He was a good listener.
Okay, guys, so we're just gonna stop there at accepting, human nature for what it is. So now again, Peter goes into maternal instincts, um, and then he talks about, Katie uh, finally speaking out after 8 days, right? And then the stepdad, Chris, did all the talking. Hey, Deborah Bennett. Hey, Babs. Good to see you. I watched Walking Tall, girl. It was very good. Still confused. Haven't done a second live about it. um, yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot there. I really want to go read those documents that they have, the 1,000 pages from TBI. Good to see you guys, though, and welcome in, everyone. So yeah, we had, Katie coming out 8 days after Sebastian had been missing, right? Stepdad and mom go on Duchess for the Missing. Chris does most of the talking, seem to have controlled the conversation. That was a lot of our initial reaction to that, in my opinion. I saw a lot of that. I felt it. Um, a lot of people felt like mom was withholding information, right? Withholding the information that happened. And I think that was another thing that really bothered me. Also, the fake crying, right? In my opinion, it was faked, and it was annoying to listen to that. It fell short. It was disingenuous, in my opinion, right? That was my first initial reaction to that. And then Peter talks about what it comes down to is listening to when someone speaks, right? So listening to the linguistics, paying attention, things to look for linguistically would be the killer having a strong opinion about the victims, right? We hear that all the time. And, I don't want to go into it in terms of all of the horrible things that have been said about Sebastian, but I mean, they even went so far as to say that if we knew things about Sebastian, we wouldn't want to search for him. I think that is the very worst, one of the very worst, right? Other than the really childish talk about Sebastian. Oh, if he doesn't wear deodorant, well, if any of us don't wear deodorant, I hate to tell you, you're gonna stink. Your pits will stink. Okay, that's everybody. Sebastian's, not different than anybody on that, in that regard, at all. Especially when it's summertime outside, we all have to wear, like, Florida, I'm wearing it constantly, right? Because it's hot and you get sweaty. It's normal. He's a boy. Um, all about them and not the missing child is another strong clue linguistically. If we're listening to what they're saying, right, and we're paying attention, if it's all about them and not about Sebastian, that's a huge red flag, right? And that's something to listen for when they're speaking. Huge red flags right there, right? And then also, we have to accept human nature for what it is, right? Pay attention, listen. And a teenager, Deborah, at that, exactly. And, he's learning how to take care of himself, right? I mean, that's how all kids are at a certain point. They kind of learn that, right? And it's normal, but it's like she's never talked about, having that routine or him taking a shower that night before bed or anything like that. She doesn't even talk about when she showered, so, does Katie not have the greatest hygiene? I mean, I would think she would. She's she's been in the military. But some people, when they get out of the military, they fall short on the hygiene. I don't know. I mean, I've seen guys get really scruffy after that. I'm just, saying. um Yeah, well, and that's the thing, sometimes it could be like that too, and I know that even I've watched other parents talk about how, it's tough for the kids to get in and out of the or to know, like, the next steps of the shower, to know how to get in and out, or when to get in and out, rather, things like that. I mean, it's just all a learning process, but um yeah, always listen to your kids. I agree, Lori. I mean, and sometimes, you know, every individual kid is going to be different. You know, it's not like they're all going to be cookie cutter the same, right? They're all individual people. And Mama Bear says it's repulsive. Sebastian's mother did not personally take it upon herself to call the father of their mutual son to tell him, use the direct number that then goes straight to the jail. Right. Hashtag it was planned. I agree, Mama Bear. That is very upsetting. Also, not to share the dash cam or whatever footage that she has that shows that Sebastian made it to the house. All of these things would be helpful. They really would be. They really would be. And they would help us understand the situation better. But instead, they want to just sit back and be like, oh, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Well, help us understand, right? Babs says Katie nor Chris nor his family ever searched for Sebastian, have ever pled on TV or raised, oh, excuse me, or the radio for his return. Nothing. That's another really good, strong point, too, Babs, is the radio. And I know, you know, a lot of us used to listen to the radio more often, but a lot of us still do in the morning, you know, on the way to work, stuff like that. So, I mean, it's all bad. It's all bad. It does not look good at all. It's terrible. GA64 says, so KP and your BO, your BO smells like roses, right? She just likes to make disgusting remarks about Sebastian. She's just so evil, in my opinion. Well, it is rude, right? Like, and that's right. Like, her BO doesn't stink, right? It's called BO for a reason, body odor, you know? And that's all of us, and especially, you know, I mean, boys are boys, they're growing up. She's a walking week old empty tuna fish can, in my opinion. Mama Bear. Deborah says, my nephew, who is exactly the same age as Sebastian, it's a war to get him into the shower and battle to get him out. They don't want to brush their teeth at that age. Well, yeah, it's hard. You have to remind them and stuff. Oh, definitely. Or be like, and they'll be like, yeah, I did brush my teeth. And you're like, let me smell your breath. You're like, oh my gosh, you have dragon breath, you know, and you're like, get back in there. And they'll be like, I brushed. And you're like, you didn't do a good enough job. You know, like, you got to get back in there, buddy. Yeah, it's a battle, right? And boys too. And it's so funny now. Sebastian didn't like to be dirty. It sounds like he was probably a little bit different, where he liked, you know, being in the shower and stuff. But some little boys, they like to be dirty and muddy, and so I mean, and it's just the individual. You know, you just never know. Um, I babysat for a little guy that he didn't like his hands to be dirty at all. If he had, like, even from his snack or something, if he had like dirty hands, he would show them to me. And he was really little. He was like 2, and I'd be like, you know, I told his mom he doesn't like to be dirty at all, does he? Does he? And she said no, not even like anything on his hands. I think there was like peanut butter or something. They were eating crackers or something. Um, yeah, and he's like showing me his hands. He's like trying to help me, you know, have me help him clean them off. So I mean, you know, some even boys don't like their hands to be dirty, or to be dirty. Parents teach their children about hygiene, toothbrushing, making sure they're ready to live their best lives. It's up to the parents. Yeah, because those are life skills, you know, they really are. And it's about, you know, like, doesn't it feel better, like, now that you brushed your teeth, like stuff like that, and helping them realize it too, you know, like, isn't it better now? Like, doesn't your food taste better and stuff like that? So I agree with that. And, you know, it's just about getting them into a routine, and especially with, um, you know, individuals on the spectrum, once they're in that routine, you know, they're pretty set to go. It's just getting it into a regular routine. And it's hard for people who aren't on the spectrum, or maybe aren't a creature of habit. I get that too. But you do have to meet them where they're at. We've talked about that with, you know, all kids. You have to meet them where they're at, you know, just like Lori was saying. Boys and teenagers don't care about their hygiene or what they look like, and yeah, until they're interested in girls. Exactly, Deborah. That's it. And then they say, oh, I want to smell good and I want the girls to like me, you know. Absolutely. And that, you know, I mean, it that kind of goes like that for girls that are kind of tomboyish. At a certain point they realize, like, oh yeah, you know. um but hey, everybody's different. Everybody's different, and that's what makes everybody great. Because we're not all alike. We're not cookie cutter. That would be so boring. Um, Not interesting. Mama Bear says Katie obviously didn't keep up teaching her son about personal hygiene, both her and Chris pushing him for things they never educate him on. For pity's sake, Katie, Google definition of parenting. Well, there you go. I mean, and I just think that there was a level of bullying about it too, Mama Bear. I can't help but think that's present, especially because they've laughed at Sebastian the way, oh, he's got a unique rhythm and everything. And it's really childish. The birthday party opened my eyes a lot, and they're the ones that videotape themselves doing it. I didn't do that. Don't be pissed off at me, because I'm disgusted by your actions. Bab says, no, it's eat your breakfast, brush your teeth. You're not leaving until you've brushed your teeth and hair. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And have on deodorant. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing too, you got to check. You do got to check. I always thought that was awful how he talked about him or how she talked about him. Hey, Shadow. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that always sticks out to me. And now listening to what Peter is saying here, he's saying that the killer, and he's saying it very matter of fact. I like Peter for that. He's very honest. He says the killer will have a strong opinion about the victim or victims, right? Or killers, whatever. Hey, Sandy, good to see you. Then they stink in a different way, perfume or cologne, right? Well, there's a little bit too much of that sometimes too, Sandy. That's true. And it's about learning how to, marry the scents together too. If you wear one scent, it might not smell good with the other one. So you don't want to, that's too funny. Bab says, let the child miss the bus because they didn't brush their teeth and walk to school and they won't miss again. I'm just saying, Katie didn't care about Sebastian at all, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, it's just about teaching. It's about teaching them, Babs. I don't know that they had the patience to do that. I'm just wondering if they even understood him at all or tried to, I mean, I get that. um and it does break my heart when I hear a mom say, like, I was having trouble because, I wasn't understanding my child. Like a famous movie that I can think of is Mr. Holland's Opus. They have a child who's deaf, right? And the mother is like literally on the kitchen floor crying because she can't understand her son. And her son is like banging on the kitchen cabinets because he's so frustrated that she doesn't understand what he wants, right? What he's trying to tell her. And that to me is like so sad seeing that as a mom and knowing that that mom is doing everything, but she's so frustrated she doesn't know what to do, and then you have Mr. Holland who like really didn't want anything to do with his son because he was deaf, until later in life. So really good movie. Shadow knows that movie. And yeah, and I can think about that, how sad that would be. And she's just like, I just want to talk to my son, I just want him to know what I'm saying. And so like if Katie was in that position, I would never fault her for something like that. But there were a lot of things that it seemed like Katie didn't even try to understand Sebastian. That's what I'm having trouble with. Yeah, I never tried to understand him, and then Sebastian became a pain when she took up with Chris, and she didn't care after that, in my opinion. Something had to have changed also. Well, we know the mask fell, Babs, because at first it was like, oh, we're going out to these restaurants, and I'm gonna buy you cooking courses, which I don't know why that's romantic, but it is, I suppose. And I guess that's the reason, like they were trying to be romantic about it or something, but like that was done. And then going out to the nice restaurants, they used to hike when they were in California, they would do all this stuff, and then when they moved to Tennessee it stopped. And a lot of times that happens in an abusive relationship. We saw him do that with Nina and move everybody to Tennessee, and then he's on the road. And again, we were talking with our friend in here earlier, and he's a construction worker, and said, hey, sometimes you do make good money on the road and stuff like that. So, it could have been to afford them a lifestyle. I don't fault a man for working at all. I'd never do that. Um, but so, but there was still that dynamic that existed. And I agree, Babs. It was like she wanted, Sebastian to not be around anymore because of Chris. You know, it certainly appears that way. It certainly appears that way. Bab says Seth raised Sebastian on his own in those early developmental years. God bless you, Seth. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's why I thought it's so weird talking about all that other crap. I'm like, you know, why do that? And I think that families do what they need to do to survive. Lori says with a little love and understanding, Sebastian could have went far. Yeah, I agree. I think he just is so intelligent. Lori, I was listening to that story about Sebastian and the school resource officer. That is my favorite story. I wish the resource officer would have got him on tape saying it was so funny. He's like, how many tickets are you going to hand out today? Hilarious. Like, that is so funny. And that's my favorite. I know everybody likes the green tea, but I just love that story. My favorite one. Betty says I don't believe CP and KP had the brains to take and try to understand Sebastian at all, in my opinion. Betty, that's a good point. And I think that probably upset them a little bit, especially Chris over there with the ego issue, you know. But yeah, you have to meet all the kids at halfway like that, where they're at, what their understanding is. Not everybody's going to, walk at the same time. Not everybody's going to talk at the same time, all of that. KP strikes me as a mom who never really bonded with the child at birth. Yeah, well, and it's weird though, Michelle. I don't know. I felt like I already bonded with my daughter before that, but yeah, like at birth, because I always think, dads are more like that, but I don't know. I'm not a dad. I feel so bad that they didn't care, Babs. I feel horrible. Deborah says, wow, my cousin was born deaf and had no problems, body language and language. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of times too, Deborah, they can have like cochlear implants. And once he in the movie, like once he learned the ASL and was able to communicate, everything was better. Right. But could you imagine the frustration of a little child that's like trying to tell you, and you're trying to figure it out, and they can't, they don't understand and you don't understand. But yeah, but once they were able to get, it's amazing, what a quick fix. And but it's about loving somebody and understanding what they need, and figuring it out even though it's stressful. Mama Bear says point is Katie made public derogatory remarks about her son. Couldn't be more personal business to the world. Yeah, serious leakage. She knew Sebastian would never hear her say that. Oh, and the other belittling. Well, and I mean, that's the way I kind of take it, Mama Bear. I mean, the derogatory statement's 100%, but I mean, why would she say that if she thought that Sebastian could hear her saying it, right? Because he's going to be upset. That would be upsetting, in my opinion. Holly S says Sebastian was too smart for KP and CP, in my opinion. I agree. I agree with that, definitely. No, they didn't care about him at all, Lori says. And it's sad, It's so sad, you guys. Oh, way too smart and intelligent. And Sebastian uh, wasn't putting up with the BS anymore. We've been talking about that too a lot, Babs. Absolutely. You get to the point where you don't want to deal with it, The voicemails. Aw, he wanted to look handsome. He wanted to look nice for school. Bab says Chris was so intimidated and jealous of Sebastian, and Katie was so weak and just wanted the man to take care of her, in my opinion. Yeah, and the crazy thing is Katie could have got financially, she was okay, I think. Unless all of her money was wrapped up in the house, maybe, but I don't know. I agree. Deborah says Sebastian's IQ was higher than CP. Children receive their intelligence from their mother. Well, and I mean, I think Katie's smart at certain things, electronics, communications. Oh, absolutely. That's one thing where I wouldn't understand how to do her job, right? Because I'm not good at that. I tell you guys all the time, I don't know how to set up all this crap that I even got going over here. In my opinion, KP had issues from her own childhood and she needed to work through those. I agree. I agree. Absolutely. Holly S. Because I don't think she ever really did. I think the military was a good place for her to go to build confidence and, get over maybe some of it, but maybe she buried a lot of that down deep and, never brought it up again. And then now it's being rehashed, obviously, through this. Obviously, it was already rehashed, though, from other things, too, because, Seth had to call in a well check because she had, allegedly, she had Sebastian with her pedo mom while she went out to eat with her dad. Again, leaving Sebastian behind and not taking him with her. And we saw how he acted out at a restaurant. He was just fine. Yeah, ASL is the key, right? Deborah, for sure. ASL is the key. I wish I could learn it. I think ASL is so amazing. Bab says that they both spewed so much intimate details and derogatory remarks dogging him. They knew he'd never hear that if they, yeah, what they said ever. I know, and that's the saddest part because Katie was saying things like, "Well, if Sebastian can hear what you guys are saying about his parents, he'd be very distraught." And I'm thinking to myself, what about what you just said about him? I think he was 7 or 8, Shadow. Sebastian was 7 or 8 whenever Chris came into the picture. Yeah, okay, Lori says, I believe 8. That's what I'm thinking. Oh, maybe it was before that. And here's the thing too. I think Katie and Chris were kind of trying to lie about when their relationship began, Deborah Bennett. So you might be right where it might have been closer to like 6 when it's and the incident in California happened around age 6, is my understanding. Nothing about Sebastian's disappearance is financial. It was about getting her son out of the way of what Chris wanted, which was his daughter, in my opinion. Yeah, and look, he said he was kidless. Who even knows if he really even wants to get his daughter back? Bab, sometimes I think it's all mama, you know? And yeah, he had great manners, Lori. Oh my gosh, just a sweet kid, right? I'd go out and eat with Sebastian any day of the week. And we'd have fun, buddy. We'd be playing the game on there and everything. We'd be talking. We'd be laughing. That was like such a rigid dinner, right? Even from a military aspect, right? I mean, gosh, it was just so rigid and not fun. And, no giggling, no laughing, no, Katie didn't even smile. The only time she did somewhat of a smile, it looked like when she was looking around deviously, in my opinion, giving devious stares in Green Hoodie's direction. Jesus. It just kills me. Holly says, Babs agree. I think he wore her down. Yeah, I mean, always saying stuff like that to her. I won't repeat it. We already talked about it, Hey, Kelly Holcomb, good to see you. I was late today too. I was, because I was over listening to Seth talk on Jay's channel. They initially portrayed Sebastian as low-functioning autistic baby teen. I agree. Yeah, like he couldn't get back on his own. They portrayed him like he needed all these medications. Oh yeah. And then we find out how his dad felt about the medications. Shadow says it was interesting what the ladies had to say that came on your panel the other day. Yes, Seclusion Works was very, very good on the panel. What I want to do is pull that live in and kind of clip her theory. I have some information that I need to get over to someone, and I have to work on that tonight. So I'm probably just going to pull an all-nighter and do it early live tomorrow morning. Is the plan, but I need to get all that information over. So I'll be working on that. But and I do want to do a new intro for the morning and stuff. Holly S says, Babs, totally. I did not even think he was verbal, and they said how he likes to hide and was up late at night, almost like he's he's feral or something. Well, I know, and that was the thing too. I mean, sometimes with autism, yes, it's children will be taking medicines for sleep, and I get that, but I mean, it's if he's able to combat that with some chamomile tea or something like that, a natural solution, I would take any day. Especially for a child. I would take it for myself any day, but for my child I would too, because there's a lot of crap out there that doesn't do you very well, and I mean, just side effects. Bab says, I think that's why Katie went ballistic at the Texas Roadhouse, because it showed the young man he was, and he wasn't this little autistic boy, and it showed the others were involved. I agree with that, Babs. That has to be one of the reasons that she wanted running up there, give me the footage and, screaming to high heaven. Why else would she do something like that, Why else would she do something like that? Hey, Town Chat Cafe, good to see you. Holly S says, at the Texas Roadhouse, he was a gentleman. He was so polite and attentive of his mother. Very attentive of his mother. I mean, I was watching that too. I was in and out. That's why I didn't say hello when I was in Primetime Buzz earlier, because I was in and out. I was working on my live. I was also talking back and forth with mods and stuff and just other info. But yes, I agree. The pictures of him being so young. I mean, and they could have given the picture at the Texas Roadhouse. Like I was saying earlier, they were talking about how it was dimly lit in the Texas Roadhouse. No, it was not. No, it was not. And that's the narrative that they want to push, Babs, that drives me nuts, Holly S says. Mama Bear says they were or are all four Terry Bowersox Senior, Kathy Guy Bowersox, Chris and Katie Proudfoot as a pack of rogue coyotes that needed to be taken out, the weak and the sick and the packed. That's my opinion of them. Well, I think that they definitely underestimated Sebastian. They definitely did. They underestimated how much we would come together for him and not give up. And that's why I want to show them that. I want to show them that we're not going to give up. Town Chat Cafe says, yeah, I saw you a little bit about the key. So, yeah, she holds the key to the secret garden, meaning the hidden room, possibly, in my opinion, allegedly. Yeah, we were talking about that too last night, guys, about, what Melissa's husband does for a living on the side hustle of Aunt Melissa. Not so nice, Aunt Melissa, in my opinion. He was a very worried gentleman, Kelly says. Whatever KP was telling him disturbed him. I agree. I agree with that. He got very, very nervous and worried, right? Visibly shaken, in my opinion. Okay, guys, so let's just watch this next part with Peter and Seth.
And a good writer, intelligent guy, but he didn't do it. And so that ended that way. In interviewing kids with autism, it's difficult. I've interviewed a lot of adults with adult autism, which can be very, very difficult because there's perseveration. There's a repeating of something that happened maybe 20 or 30 years ago, and getting convictions is really difficult. I did the case some of you recognize of Nathan Carmen, where he went off on a boat ride with his mom, and the boat sank, and his mom didn't get onto the life raft, and he survived and told the story. And I filmed a news program on that, saying he's lying. Very muted emotionally, but he's lying. He's being deceptive. The answer was found in him. Eventually, I worked with the family, and at the time I was doing the news program, they also had someone on saying, "Oh, you can't analyze the words of someone with that disorder, adult autism or Asperger's." So yeah, you really can. If they can communicate, you got to listen. And as it turned out, police had known that he had sabotaged the boat, and he was also a suspect in the killing of his grandfather. All this had to do with the inheritance of $10 million. His aunts knew. The family had contacted me, and he was finally arrested, and he committed suicide in jail. So it didn't end well. When Sebastian went missing, the key to finding him, the key to everything, lies with the mother. In order to find him, you have to know under what circumstances he went out that door. You have to know that. She withheld that information, and it was very carefully guarded over by stepfather. So if stepfather wasn't there, then why would he have the same guilt? And this is my theory on it, and then I'll let Seth comment on any of those things. The key to locating either Sebastian's remains, or at least the trail of where it goes, that if someone grabbed him and he's still alive, the key to locating him lies with that mother. You have to tell what happened. We have to understand his mindset. We have to understand what he was like at that moment. So here are two factors within that I think are not understood and really important. She holds the key. That account is the only evidence that can be presented to investigators to understand Sebastian's mindset and how bad whatever happened. And here's another one: when it happened. I am convinced it didn't suddenly become a surprise at 6 a.m., not by their language. That interview that was done recently, absolutely perfect, which is a good sign that tells you, nope, it was scripted, it was put together. The key to finding, or at least the proper trail, is understanding what happened that night. And there were two linguistics that were so powerful. Is number one, and I hope this gets through because I'm having trouble, people still write to me about it, is the "I love you." Okay. She's said, she's allegedly quoting him, "I love you, mama," and the puppies. And he may have well said that. It may have been okay at that point. It is to present her to the public while her son is missing as a good mother. The presentation, the linguistic presentation of a good mother tells you something went wrong. Something went wrong. And even I in subsequent interviews, I heard them repeat that again. And it was too precise. I said, oh, that's coordinated. So it's alarming. We all say, "I love you" to our children, and hopefully our children say it to us. It is the need to present that while Sebastian was missing that says, from the subject's point of view, I need to be seen as a good mother. The need to be seen or perceived as a good mother tells you there was a deficit, there was something wrong. There was something wrong. So, if I came on here and I said, hey, I just want to tell everybody, there's no excuse for elder abuse. And I go on and on about it. After a while, you're going to say, did you hurt your grandfather? Why the unnecessary moralizing? It's the same theme. It's a type of presentation that is meant for you to consider, oh, well, that's really nice. He loved her. Therefore, she couldn't have done anything. It's no different than someone calls up on the emergency call and says, I was sleeping and I just woke up and the door's open and my child is missing. So you count off what the priority is. I was sleeping, I just woke up, the door was open, before we can get to the child. In other words, I'm going to present myself as innocent, which brings our attention to it.
I agree, guys. And another thing is that people that do this are creating an alibi for themselves. And even 911 operators are trained to identify this. So the fact that, Chris and Katie did not call 911 tells me a lot. They did not want to be found out, right? They were probably giving a whole bunch of information. I always call it over explaining. This guy is saying, Peter Hyatt, respectfully, why the unnecessary moralizing of the situation, right? So we also saw that in Jack and Lily's case with their mother, Malaya Brooks Murray. Children on the spectrum can be challenging to interview, and Peter kind of goes into this talking about how even though they are challenging to interview, he goes back to one that he interviewed who was being deceptive and they were muted emotionally, which we do see that sometimes with people on the spectrum where, they will have trouble with social cues or emotions, but he was still able to tell when they were being deceptive. Same goes for anyone, in my opinion. When Sebastian went missing, Katie is the key to finding him. The key lies with his mother. Why did he walk out the door? The key to locating Sebastian lies with Katie. Katie telling what happened, right? She never has told us that. I don't know why. I don't know why he walked out that door. Made more sense if we'd have been fighting. Chris pipes in, or if he was in trouble, but he wasn't even in trouble, right? The linguistics. We need to pay attention to the linguistics. And this is where Peter Hyatt was a man after my own heart, because that's what I've done from the beginning, is pay attention to the linguistics, listening to the statements, over analyzing, probably analyzing and over analyzing, but that's okay, right? We have to in some instances. Deborah Bennett says, the second I saw Sebastian, I knew he was high functioning and high IQ. It takes a special dialogue and patience to communicate and coexist with teenagers. Oh, well said. It's a whole different dynamic, right? With a teenager, Sebastian was coming into his own, right? He was becoming a young man. Hey, little Miss Sharon, thank you for hitting the like button. I'm so glad you're here, lady. That's who's. Oh, the farrier. You're with the farrier, and the horse is getting brand new shoes. Oh, snap. Uh-oh. He's going to be prancing around in his new kicks. Thanks for being here, little Miss Sharon. I hope it goes well. Rosebud, good to see you. Good evening, all. Has anyone reviewed the part 3 of shorts from the channel called Carrie Reviews from about 5 months ago? I have been reviewing Carrie Reviews, Rosebud. One of our friends here sent it to me, and I was looking over it, and then I sent it over to a friend of mine to kind of verify maybe some of its origins. Because it's really important for me to do that. I did want to share it with you guys, but then I was a little bit worried. Maybe we'll take a gander later on. Because I'm always just hesitant when I don't know where it actually came from, if it's been enhanced or anything's been added in or, taken away or anything. But thank you for being here, Rosebud. I thought it was very interesting, Carrie's reviews findings. Hey, little Miss Sharon says, in my opinion, Peter is right about CP and KP. However, I don't think he's right about Sebastian being locked out. Oh, I don't think so either, Little Miss Sharon. Me neither. That was one thing, I guess, because I don't like to be so oppositional, and I like Peter, and I didn't want to disrespect him or anything. But I mean, it's not if we're just disagreeing. We all disagree. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying about that. No, I think it was absolutely where the 3 a.m. lights, the car in the neighborhood, it had to have been, in my opinion. Hey, Twists and Turns, good to see you. And Betty H says CP is lucky he didn't have a stepson like I was blood daughter, because CP would have learned early that it was not good, or it was not a good idea to ever put his hands on Sebastian. Well, and I mean, nobody really knew what was really going on except for CPS, and I do blame them tremendously for allowing Sebastian to fall through the cracks. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, I love Peter, how Peter puts things into perspective. I do too. That's why I was like, okay, I don't even need to cam up tonight because I need to be taking notes here. Really, because these are really great points and things to look for, right? And then I just love that he's going after kind of their statements and analyzing those, because I think that's the most important pieces that we have, other than obviously the circumstantial evidence, the lights video, that sort of thing. Ooh, I love great coffee. I live on coffee. Mama Bear. Lori. Lori says, amen, Mama. Mama, that sounds very nice. Babs says she never said it back to him. Absolutely. That is the key right there, Babs, right? Another key that Katie holds. She holds the key, only evidence that she gives that she can present to the investigators, right? Which would be one, Sebastian's mindset, that it wasn't a surprise to her, right? At 6 a.m. This was not a surprise to her at 6 a.m. She didn't just go in there. And of course, we have that big lapse of time too, right, guys? Because we have, the linguistics here would be, I love you, Mom. I love you, puppies. Or I love you, Mama. I love you, puppies. She doesn't say anything back, as Babs points out, right? And this is her quoting Sebastian, right? So it's more so that this statement, it sounds coordinated by Katie, and the need to be seen and perceived as a good mother, right? So the linguistic presentation of a mother is something that seems like she wrote out, right? Very scripted, in my opinion. Let's see, scripted and put together. We need to understand what happened that night. This is the huge part of it, right? The key that Katie holds is understanding what happened that night, right? When he gets in the car with Katie, when Sebastian Rogers gets into the car with Katie Proudfoot, his mother, and he buckles his seatbelt in, and they back out of that driveway of the Texas Roadhouse parking spot, rather, that's it. That's all we know. That's all we know for sure, that we've seen with our own eyes. All of that, guys, all of it. And we need to know. We need to know. And we can absolutely see the deficit in Katie's statements, right? Why is she unnecessarily moralizing the situation, right? Made more sense if we'd been fighting. I don't know why he walked out the door. It should have been just a natural reaction. I told him I love him too. I gave him a kiss. I gave him a hug. I gave him a pat on the head, whatever, right? I don't care what you're doing in there. Go to sleep. Very dismissive, like we saw at the Texas Roadhouse, in my opinion. And that was her. And she made sure that was what she wanted that as the narrative. Except for to Nancy Grace. That was, Bubba, did you fall out of the bed? No, ma'am. Or if she's talking to the neighbor, go to sleep, Mom. Because that's what Sebastian said to her. She loves putting words in his mouth. She sure does. And most of the time she does some kind of a odd impression to boot, in my opinion. Peter Hyatt gone too soon. Amen, Holly S. What a great mind. In my opinion, they told him the opposite of I love you. I mean, that's what I'm thinking, Holly, when they're like, I don't care what you're doing in there, get to bed. I mean, come on. I don't care what you're doing in there, go to sleep. And then, of course, it turns nice when it's being told to Nancy Grace. Oh, Bubba. She does that crap with Duchess for the Missing, too. And guys, we know that Duchess for the Missing had a conversation, recorded some things with the Proud Feet, so they were ready for that interview. That day 8 interview, they, had already probably had the conversation, what was on limits, what was off limits. Let me tell you what I do here. If you were to tell me, Lady Freedom, I would like to come on your panel and tell my story, I would want to interview you first. Okay? I'd want us to have a phone conversation. I would want you to tell me your story. I would want to be able to ask you questions. I would want to be able for you to tell me what is on and off limits, because that's a respectful interview, right? Because I could ask something like, just be writing it down right here on the fly, and then I have a question and I'm like, well, what about this? And it opens up a can of worms that you didn't want to open up, right? It's just about having respect. That's the way I do it. So, I'm not faulting it. I'm actually saying that's my strategy too, because it's only right to do it that way, in my opinion. Does it take a little bit more time? Yeah. But at least I get to know the person that I'm having on my panel too. Because I would want somebody, especially if they're coming up talking about their missing child or loved one that was, mistreated by the system or fell through the cracks or, wrongfully blamed, for doing something to their own self when it was really their corrupt hussy of a husband. Yeah, I want to talk to these people. I want to understand them better. I want to listen to the linguistics of what they're saying, right? Because anybody can come up here too on a panel and say whatever they want. So I think that that's smart. Holly S says, I really believe he had to listen to a lot of hateful BS on a regular basis. Oh, me too. All the crap that Chris spews out of his mouth, my Lord. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, I wonder if Katie watches a lot of true crime. Well, Chris was the one mentioning all of the cases, but they could very well be into it together, and she could be, interested. Thanks, Town Chat Cafe, for welcoming everybody in. I appreciate you. They seem to have known the playbook, right? The Summer Wells playbook. And oddly enough, guys, I'm pretty sure Chris McDonough said the same thing. And I swear I said it before I knew he said it. And it was on Josh's live, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, because I did a whole live on it, and that was before I even knew. And Chris McDonough is like, the man when it comes to the porch interview, right, with his wife, and she's filming, he's asking the questions. They bought pizza, they were, they got the Mountain Dew, they had the whole 9 yards to try to get to the bottom of what was going on with little Summer. I've always believed and suspected that Sebastian was bothered and suspicious what was going on outside of the Texas Roadhouse, and I think Sebastian began a conversation about it, and it was escalated. Well, he definitely was side-eyeing and he side-eyed and then he watched like a hawk, the green hoodie, in my opinion. And, we see Katie point to the green hoodie, put her hand on the car. They didn't try to not cross paths. They made it a point to cross paths because green hoodie was waiting for Katie, in my opinion. That whole scene is so screwed up. And then you mean to tell me that you didn't make contact with either the green hoodie or the yellow jacket? Michelle says, I believe KP was scanning around the Texas Roadhouse. Was her looking for cams in a way to say she was with him as a digital alibi of sorts? That's a good point, Michelle. Very well could be, right? Because there are people that make sure that they're seen in order to get away with something that they've done. I agree with that 100%. We've seen it several times. Thank you. Rosebud says, realistically, everything after the visual of Sebastian getting in the car at the Texas Roadhouse could be a made up story from KP as far as we know. And I agree with that too. Even the trash being taken out. She never said he did that before. It took her until, mid-March to talk about that, to add that to her story, right? So yeah, I mean, we do not know. We do not know. And another thing is that whatever she put into the trash bin, she had to have put that into the trash bin unless, I'm sure we would have heard about it if somebody went back over to that trash bin again. So whatever was done or thrown away out of that trash bin, and again, they called the police after the trash was picked up. So it could have been cameras, electronics, it could have been anything that they wanted to get rid of, or they could have got rid of it the week before if it was premeditated, which I think it was. I tend to think more on that side of it, right? I always say 80% is foul play. Well, part of that is, I'm not sure what could have happened, right? Did Katie snap, or did she, and about 70% of me thinks it was premeditated. Only 10% thinks it could have been a snap or an accident, right? 5%, 5%. The other 20%, hopefully, God willing, Sebastian's alive somewhere. And even though he's being captured hostage or whatever, he's still alive and he'll come home. Right? That's my theory, right? That's kind of the pie of my theory. Bab says Sebastian, being the young man he was, the loving person he was, would still say, I love you, mama, love you, puppies. No matter what abuse he's gone through, he wanted to express love, and wanted it. And I agree with that too. I agree with him saying it. Why didn't she say it back, So good to see you, Twists and Turns. I wonder why they didn't use his last school picture as his missing picture. I think it's because he looked so defeated, and that was not chocolate milk, in my opinion. I know Holly S. and our friend Free Bird, I will never forget when she said, Lady Freedom, he looked haunted in that picture. His eyes do look haunted, guys. It reminded me when I was in an abusive relationship and I'd have to go to school and take a picture or whatever, go to school and take a picture, but you have to go out into the public and you have to put on that game face, right? You got to put on that happy face, the nothing's wrong face, and I think that's where I get, my defense mechanism of cracking jokes, probably where I get it from. I wouldn't doubt she's listening in here. And Chris, even the Bower sucks. Oh, Lord. Mama Bear. Don't give me the willies. I hope they don't listen. I mean, I do. I hope that Katie would listen sometimes and understand that, I'm trying to see where she's coming from. Thank you, Town Chat Cafe, for gifting a Lady Freedom's Raw Narratives membership. And if you get a membership from Town Chat Cafe, make sure you say thank you and welcome to the Dragon Tribe. Thank you, Town Chat Cafe. That's so sweet of you. I really appreciate it, guys, because I'm trying to get to Pigfest. This is my new, I know I got the computer, now I got to try to get to Pigfest. So I'm going to be hustling, pushing out content, hopefully getting a good amount going. And, because we need support there, in my opinion. Hey, Coffee, Crime, and Cats. Good to see you. But we might do something fun, like a fundraiser day or something like that, or we might, I don't know, but we'll do something fun. But it's still in the works. Oh, met before Sebastian went missing. Thanks, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom. I agree also with Peter Hyatt how Sebastian is being locked out. Oh, you do agree with that, Deborah? Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just don't think he was locked out. I think they brought him out with the lights. I do. I really do. See, that's my really strong part of my theory. Hey, Rodney and Katrina, good to see you. Hey, Social Butterfly. I did pics and prepped kids at school for years for pictures, and that chocolate milk would have been wiped off Sebastian's face. Good point. Babs, I remember that too. You know, helping out at picture day. Yeah, you're right. And you don't let a little kid get up there with like you know, You're right. That is such a good point. If you haven't seen the Cat in the Hat short story yet, can I share it here real quick? Yeah, for sure, Count Chat. Yeah, that's why I gave you a wrench. I know you won't share anything weird, so just don't drop any links for any of the weirdos. No, I'm just teasing. But yeah, yeah, drop the link here. Absolutely, girl. Forensic, and I'm sorry, I just haven't. I've been really working, guys. I'm working on some stuff behind the scenes. It's really, really important. So I needed to get that out, and I didn't realize it was going to be something that I was working on. But we got it. It's just, last week was about kicked my ass twice. And then poor Seth. I mean, goodness sakes. Aw, thank you. Thank you so much, Social Butterfly. Thank you so much. Yeah, guys, check out Peter Hyatt. What a wonderful soul he is. I wouldn't doubt it. Maybe you got too many clues in watching how some did get away and learn what not to do. Yeah, so they couldn't, so that to not to get caught. Well, yeah, Mama Bear, that's what Peter's also talking about here a little bit. And I think there's a lot to be said about that, right? People think that there's a perfect crime, they're going to get away with it, and it's always the littlest one little mistake. Excuse me, it's always that one little mistake. So, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, and there's also the fact that the first thing she did when Seth arrived was shove her phone in his face. We had a great day. That's strange, in my opinion. I agree. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. And he's in saying, oh, this was us at Costco. Look, look, look. Yes, thank you for the reminder. We all need to analyze the 12:17 a.m. surveillance video of who the person is walking outside at the home. It is Sebastian, or is it Sebastian, or is it Katie? And that's the biggest question. I've heard that a lot circulating on the streets lately, right? What about the trash can video of them taking out the trash, right? And then the 12:17 surveillance video, um now that one is allegedly, and Mob Crew does a really good job of that, of analyzing these videos. And they found out that there was a cat, or excuse me, the 12:17 wasn't a cat, it was a dog, someone walking their dog, you know? So, yeah, and it's hard to see, but it's definitely someone walking their dog. Yeah, so that one's, and then the 10 o'clock one was a cat. So we have a cat at 10, and then at 12 we have the dog, and then, the person walking the dog. And then we have the 3 a.m. flashlights, right? Then we have the Uber, right, that picked up on Kellen. And then we have, excuse me, not Kellen, Devin, my bad. The Uber, and then we have the trash truck, right? So just to kind of keep it in perspective, there were events that were happening that night that we're aware of, and those were the events, to my knowledge. Hey, Bubby, good to see you. So nice to see you. Bubby's so cute. She calls me Ladybug. Why doesn't she get emotional recalling the last words she heard from Sebastian? I wouldn't be able to even say them. I know coffee, cats, and crime, coffee, crime, and cats. I wouldn't be able to either. I would be very emotional, and I would also be like very emotional about the fact that he was with me last. And that would go for anybody's child, like not just my own. Like, say there was a kid that was staying overnight, like we heard that story about the little girl that was kidnapped from the sleepover party, right? Like, say there was a slumber party and I was the mom hosting, and heaven forbid, I'd be beside myself. I wouldn't know what to do. I would be so guilt-ridden. I really would be. I would be throwing myself at the mercy of everybody, especially God and the parents that I was responsible for their child. But if it was my own child, it would just eat me up too. So, I mean, Adam Forever 21 says, it's PPP, Pop Pizza Podcast. Yay, Adam Forever 21. I love pizza. Babs, and I love podcasts and pop. Babs says, Seth, so much love and respect to you. I pray every night for Sebastian and that he is well. Pray for you. You're keeping yourself well too. Yeah, absolutely, Babs. And that's the thing too. You know, it's hard. It's very hard. That I always tell people that too. I'm always like, make sure you take care of yourself, because it's hard to remember to do that, especially when you're taking care of everyone else, or when your main mission is just to find your son, you know? Ida Anthony, so good to see you. Did I miss Seth in here, you guys? I'm sorry, Seth, if you are in here. Oh Lord, look at me. I'm just ignoring Seth. Well, hey, Seth. Sorry, guys. Let me go back down here. Town Chat says, I'm a Grandma Texas Dragonosaurus. Welcome, hostess with the mostest at the Dragon Tribe. The Dragon Tribe nightclub. Oh no. Where the best moonshine is served, virtually, in my opinion. Nice. Town Chat, that's hilarious. I love that. I hope you have a good weekend too. Yeah, it was a pretty fun Labor Day weekend. I did take a couple of days off, which was nice, you know. Was very nice, just to get a little bit of extra sleep, because I wanted to get ready for this week because I knew it would be a busy one. This case has pissed me off since day one when something needs to be done. I know, Adam Forever 21. I feel that. Oh, no, you're fine, Bubby. I've just been doing more shows and stuff. Like, I do one at night and during the day. So, no worries at all. I'm glad when you are here. I've just been trying to catch some of the early birds, some of the night owls. And Michelle says, okay, in light of KP having life insurance policy, I had a thought. They have him listed as missing all this time. And if he stays that way till his 18th birthday, that policy doubles. And he's been missing. Yeah, I've thought about that as well. That's really why I wanted to share that, Poppy Love. Good to see you. You know, the queen of the castle. Don't chat. That's funny. The dragon, queen of the dragons, the dragon tribe. Thank you. That's so sweet. That's funny too. Adam Forever 21 says they need to prove the procedures of no stone unturned to higher ups. I agree. Adam Forever 21, 100%. You know, they don't get to blame a category. No, they blame everything. They blame everything. Oh yeah, Bubby's just being polite about the weekend. I didn't even ask you guys how you're, talking about it. I didn't even ask how people's weekends went. I didn't. I didn't. Oh, Bubby, we're both in Florida. That's cool. That is very cool. Oh no, Bubby's not a troll, guys. I promise. I promise she's not a troll. Where am I? Where are you? I am here. I'm not there. Should not be there. I should be there. Aw, there is where I should be. Where is there? There is home sweet home. Aw, Town Chat, that's cute. I know you're not a troll, Bubby. Oh no, guys, I've known Bubby for a while. I didn't know you was in Florida though, Bubby. My Mama Bear says it was weird how Chris buddied up with a man of whom he stole his wife, uh, talking on a phone often about Sebastian out of his house, and to Seth. Yeah, they felt stuck with Sebastian after all. Yeah, and got rid of him. Well, and I mean, it certainly does seem like that, doesn't it? My goodness. Oh, hey, Robini. Oh, thank you, Bubby, for sending the 199. Oh, girl, I know you're not a troll. Yeah, be nice to Bubby in the chat, guys. Sometimes autocorrect says things wrong, and sometimes I read things wrong too. And thank you, Rob Beanie, for hyping the video. You guys are awesome. I didn't know how to do that or what I should do if I did do that. Oh, good night, Babs. Thank you for being here. Love you too. And Seth, Babs loves you too. Aw, you guys are sweet. I really appreciate you guys saying that to Seth. He needs all the help we can. He needs all the help that we can give him for real. I mean, don't we all? But good to see you, Meow. Thank you for being number 50. Thanks, guys. Katrina says, "What's the difference between when the flashlight was seen coming on, going from the home, and when the light in Katie's bedroom came on?" You know, we see the car going down the street, and see, I don't know exactly what time her bedroom light went on, but this, oh, sorry, not this one. It's this one right next to it. Um, this one was at 3:06, and Chris from Mob has these time stamped at 3:15. So she was definitely awake before this event, right? With the car goes by. You know, down Kellen. Now this is 2:59:35 here. So, and that's 2:26:24, guys. It's just cut off a little bit on the timestamp there. But again, you know, and that's basically what my face looks like, is Chris is right there, like, really? Oh, cool. Okay, Bubby, I'm over here in Fort Myers. Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, great, Meow. I'm so glad to hear that. How's my Meow Me doing? Meow Me. Touch. GA64 says most of KP's interviews are without emotions and expressionless, like there's no soul, in my opinion. Well, the one really creeped me out when people sent me that one with Katie's eyes, and I was like, oh boy, either that's a lot of Xanax or something. And thank you so much, Bubby, for that super chat. I just realized that was two separate ones. Thank you, honey. I really appreciate that. That's so awesome. Deborah says, I have never seen the one, or excuse me, I've never seen the 12:17 a.m. surveillance until a week ago. The neighbor walking his dog, I saw he walked his dog out and around the black truck. Yeah, and then I think he comes out in the morning and does the same thing, but I don't remember where I saw that, you know? Oh, yeah, Lori. Well, yeah, we know, Bubby. Yeah. I'm glad to hear you were doing meow. Don't chat, you cracked me up. Deborah Bennett, Mob Crew has the entire evidence in the video. Right. Yeah, he does. Well, and he shows the cat too. That's the thing. I really like, and that's the person I sent that enhancement to that Rosebud was talking about earlier. Not to Mob, but to another person who's very good at video editing and stuff like that, and you know, kind of understanding the layers. And I mean, there's people that are so much smarter and have way better software than I do too. So, um, yeah, the world of jurors can tell, right? The court of public opinion, Adam Forever 21, definitely. Yes, I do need to watch more of his too. He's got his voice is so calming, but people have told me that, I don't know, sometimes when I'm ranting and swearing though, probably not so much, Katrina, but they'll be like, Lady Freedom. One time somebody said, Lady Freedom, my dog's snoring, listening to you sleeping. And I was like, oh gosh. So I was putting the dogs to sleep. hmm Town Check Cafe says, Lady Freedom, I know you can send me the principal's office for being the class clown tonight. No, I would never, I won't even dream of it. Oh my gosh, I'll be clowning right with you. Rosebud Rosebud says, I'm still very curious about the 4/2 warrant visit to Stafford Court that was heard on the dispatch. That was no subpoena, in my opinion. Yeah, are you talking about like a couple of months ago, Rosebud? I remember that. Where it came over the dispatch, you know? Thank you, Katrina. So are you. You guys are great. I love having you guys here. Mob Crew, but his live streams are so long, and then you have to go back and try to figure out which live stream he has the timestamps videos that you want. Yeah, well, and I mean he's just so thorough too. Yeah, but I enjoy his live streams. I really do. Just even getting into some of the technicalities on there. Um, right? Are you Town Chat? Are you slap happy tonight? Actually, sometimes we need to smile. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Laughter is the best medicine and a good stress relief for sure. I love breaking the tension with a laugh for sure. All right, guys, let's go back to Mr. Peter Hyatt here.
So the I love you under this context is alarming. It's telling you that something went wrong. Then, when someone mentions a phone call in a statement, in this context, that phone call is part of the story. Very big part of the story. Now, stepfather wasn't there, so he could not have caused whatever happened. Then she connected stepfather with the phone call. The other day I was driving, and I just want everyone to know that using a hands-free operation, I spoke to my daughter on the phone for a half an hour. I just love talking to her, and I probably keep her on too long. And this is true. I really do. I like to talk to her, and she's very busy with the baby and that sort of thing. You would ask rightfully, Peter, why are you telling us that? Your child is missing. Why are you? I'm the one connecting it in a really weird way. You'd be right to ask that question. This is how we learn. We ask questions. So why, in a controlled environment with stepfather bearing down, why the need to tell us you had a 3-hour phone call while Sebastian is missing? I believe her. And I believe it's critical. So he wasn't connected to whatever happens to Sebastian until she connected him with his blessing. There's no refutation. There was no angry response to that. As if you stay on the phone for 3 hours at night when a child goes missing. What that told me was, and this is statement analysis 101. This is not anything of shocking discovery, is that phone call is part of Sebastian's missing. And that's why he's brought into this. She did it. She brought him in. Then stepfather went on and gave more and more interviews. The more interviews he gave, the worse it got. Because you saw what his bellicose language sounded like. What the language of physicality. I mean, he was at the point where is he starting to threaten people that are asking questions? The key to finding Sebastian, or at least the trail of Sebastian, lies with the mother. And whatever happened to him, I am firm in my belief he was part of it via the phone call. And why, after being married as many times as he has and being such a man of anger, and his disposition towards Sebastian was frightening. It was frightening to me. I've interviewed him 100 times in that sense, where I've heard the stepfathers and boyfriends run them down and very sometimes subtly blame the victim, that sort of thing. And they did. That's self-defense. That is preservation. If Katie wants him found, whether he is deceased or alive, she has to give up the same key from the very beginning that remains all this time, 2 months later. Just tell the truth of what happened.
Okay, guys, and unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get the truth of what happened to Katie, but I just kind of want to break this down really quick. 3-hour phone call. Chris wasn't connected at that point, right? Chris was not connected until she connected him with the phone call, right? She brings KP brings CP into the equation with the phone call, right? And I do think that is when Chris is kind of, reintroduced into the situation. Now, we do know now that the picture was taken at the Texas Roadhouse, and Chris says that he was the recipient of the picture, right? But we didn't know that back then. Neither did Peter, right? He didn't see the Texas Roadhouse video. God rest his soul, right? But, Peter goes into the language of physicality that Chris Proudfoot brings in, right? Hey, IML. Hey, Joe. Also, threaten those who ask questions, right? With physicality. Those are his linguistics. That's what Chris is bringing into the equation. Katie brought him into it, and now he's bringing these elements in, right? Physicality, threatening those who ask questions. He also brings in the victim blaming aspect, right? Because of self-preservation. He's trying to save his own ass, in my opinion. CP is part of the equation because of the phone call. That puts Chris right there, So very interesting perspective by Peter Hyatt, guys. He's the expert, right? He says this is first day shit. He says this is 101, right? 101 is like your first year of whatever subject. So psychology 101, right? Identifying a liar 101, but yeah, Rosebud. So, going back to what you were saying, I'm curious about that as well. I wonder what that was, because we heard it, it was speculated on a couple of times. I wonder what they were trying to get information on, or what the warrants were for. He has definitely degraded Sebastian in front of media. Peter Hyatt knows this stuff. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, it all falls under the self-preservation, right? And to justify what his actions have been. So he's going to blame the victim, and he certainly has blamed Sebastian in horrible, horrible ways. Not a subtle way either, like you said, Adam Forever 21. Not to mention the way they talk about Sebastian's food habits, like we're going to the grocery store to find Sebastian. Right. Oh, a deterrent. Absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, not to say that it's not somewhat helpful information in becoming more aware of who Sebastian is, his personality, but the things that, Sebastian likes to eat, that's going to be very low on my list of questions, right? Not to say that, now if there's specific things, I will say this about a child on the spectrum, right? Or if we're talking about Sebastian and him being on the spectrum, there may be certain things that, yeah, he, every morning he's used to having, a bowl of Malta-Meal, or, every morning he's used to having, toast and, it buttered this way, or maybe he likes it dry, or, you know what I mean? Those are things to look out for. Also, if somebody is going, say, to the store to buy specific items for Sebastian, like his favorite cereal, those are things to look out for. And in the community, just in case he may have been kept someplace, right, hostage or something. Say he is in one of those underground bunkers. I mean, that just scares the crap out of me to think about it. But say he was, and they were buying certain things for him, right? And you see somebody going, and then they have a receipt, and then the FBI or, TBI, whoever, can go back and say, oh, look at this, right? And then follow that person back. Mama Bear says the waiting car on the curb during flashlights caused a ring camera lights. Yeah, that were flashed for a microsecond, barely caught on normal speed, where they're signaling where they could be found. Dark car, hard to see. Yeah, I agree. Well, and they didn't think that they were going to set off those motion sensor lights either. These ones right here, right? So, These are the ones they tripped off in order for us to get that really good still shot of them too. Peter's amazing. I agree. I agree. Oh, sorry guys, I must have got. Oh, Joe says he disagrees with Peter on this one. God bless Seth. This has to be so hard to listen to on some aspects. I know. Well, absolutely. It's like going back. Definitely. You know, and you can tell he's taking it all in. That's what we all want is the truth. I absolutely agree, Robini. Peter is on the spot, 2 hour and 45-minute conversation. They were planning or creating an alibi scenario. I agree. They definitely could have been planning something. I mean, that's where it makes me think there may have been an accident or a snap, right? Something happened and, Katie gets Chris on the horn, right? We're going to get pinched if, somebody finds us out, right? That pulls him into it. The minute that he shared that with his mother, if he did, in my opinion, he did, and his stepdad, that pulls them into it. The minute that anybody didn't call 911, they're co-conspirators. They're accomplices, right? Like Joe says, it would put CP and his accomplices at risk if KP could produce remains. I think it would too. That would be part of the big deal that we would need, right? In order for someone to start squawking. Mama Bear says, Joe Neal, yes, some things I strongly disagree with Mr. Hyatt, few things, not all. Yeah, and hey, guys, we're not going to always we're not always going to agree all the time, right? There's things that I'm going to get wrong, and you guys are going to be like, what the heck is Lady Freedom talking about? Like, she was spot on. I was, aligned with what she was saying yesterday, but what the heck is she talking about today? And I mean, and I'm not an expert of any kind. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm going to get wrong, too, but I'll always correct whatever I get wrong. And I'll never get mad at you guys for disagreeing with me unless you're like, you're an idiot, and start throwing, tomatoes at me. If you're going to do that, please email me privately and throw the tomatoes over there, as to not, hopefully derail the whole chat and stuff. But I mean, GA64 says 3-hour phone call was her alibi. Yeah, it appears that way. Oh, cool. Bubby used to live in Fort Myers too. It's beautiful here. I really love it. Okay, 3 hours away out there, install AC units. Oh, cool. That's neat. All right. Winkler Ave in Fort Myers. I'm not as familiar with the area, so but now hopefully maybe one time I'll see Winkler and know. But yeah, oh, that's so cool. I would love to go to Miami. I heard Miami is so fun. I bet it's just like fun everywhere. Deborah says it works if Katie if she handed Sebastian off to someone before she got to the house. I mean, I still haven't ruled that out either. I still haven't ruled that out either. And of course, that would fit into either one, right? It would fit into the narrative of somebody took him somewhere and still has him someplace, or it could have been foul play, like those are the two on that. And, there are places where they could have dropped Sebastian off. We don't know what route they took home from the Texas Roadhouse. There are 3 routes home from the Texas Roadhouse. And I know that the McCoys are friends with JLR. So, I mean, I'm sure he would give them permission to use the footage of the 3 routes. And if they want to take them from mine, but I put the silly people, I put Katie and Chris riding on, JLR's bumper. So I don't know if they'd want to use mine, but I mean, if they wanted a serious version of it and they could calculate or whatever they needed to do, Well, Joe, that is something that, it is so hard to fathom and factor in, but I agree. There's times where I don't even want to believe how bad it is. Joe says, yeah, Hyatt wasn't aware of the depraved natures involved here. Yeah, and I mean, I think we're dealing with very evil people. I do. I can feel it. I don't like the feeling. It makes me feel really gross. You know, thanks IML, handed off or transferred. Probably their electronic devices and cell phones, etc., and surveillance ring cameras. Yeah, anything could have been thrown away. Deborah, that's the thing they do. It's critical that autistic children have routine and schedules and consistency. Yeah, it just makes for an easier time for them, right? And we did hear that Sebastian would have trouble with, things changing. As much as he wanted to go live with his dad, there were things that was like, oh, that's going to change, right? But that's how anything is, I mean, there's things that I very much miss about Missouri that I didn't think I would miss, right? But then I love living in Florida now. So, I mean, and it's about getting used to it. And then Seth, of course, we heard him say, it's not forever. It wasn't going to be forever. And I explain that to Sebastian that, nothing is forever, right? That's one of my favorite sayings is this too shall pass, because this too shall pass, right? Not when it comes to Sebastian. I don't think that way, but I mean, I do in life in general, right? Nothing lasts forever. It's going to change, and then maybe you're going to look back and say, wow, I missed that time. Who's the other statement analysis? Not DD, but the other white guy, brown hair, 30s to 40s. Mike Damon? Does he have a very thick accent? Like perhaps German? I think maybe. I don't want to disrespect him, but I'm just guessing. Remember when CP said he is either in the woods or will come home and need therapy? Well, yeah, if he is in the secret garden in captivity, then that might be his way of saying a hint that he is alive somewhere. But I pray and hope Sebastian is doing good on a ranch or a farm with agriculture life and being homeschooled and is doing well, in my opinion, allegedly. I hope so too, Town Chat Cafe. That would be ideal. Um, I don't know what to think about the Woods statement. It's bothered me a lot. I'm still kind of trying to get to the bottom of it, and I'm trying to kind of figure out, because even the live that we reviewed earlier with Deception Detective and Elevated Goof and the rest of them, that one had to have been after Sebastian's birthday, which was December 7th, right? Because they were talking about how the footage came out on Sebastian's birthday. So it had to have been somewhere, around December of last year, after the 7th. And the McCoy interview, or phone conversation rather, was on October of 2024, right? So not exactly the same time frame. Not exactly the same time frame. Didn't KP's bedroom light come on after 3 a.m. lights? No, I thought it was at 3:06 Detroit, but do I have that wrong? See, this one doesn't have the timestamp on it. Hold on. Thank you, Detroit. Okay. This one does not. This one does not. I'll have to double check that. Because that would matter. That's pertinent to the time frame, definitely. Thanks, Detroit. I thought Chris said it was before. Like, I thought that was the same picture from the 3 a.m. that they kind of tried to cover up. But I could be wrong. Because I remember he showed another one where the sun was coming up that morning and the light was turned off. The waiting car on the curb during flashlights caught on ring cam. Lights were flashed for a microsecond, barely caught on normal speed, where they were signaling where they could be found. Dark car, hard to see. Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's a dark area. Meant that to be a question. Well, I thought it was that silver car. No, I think the Uber driver was in blue a blue car, I think. GA64 says, God bless Seth. This has had to be hard to listen to on some aspects. Sorry, I think I went too far back in the chat now, guys. I did. Didn't KP's bedroom light come on after? Okay, that's where I left off. Right, and with an autistic kids and adults too, they are very picky eaters, and so food would probably be a main topic in their household. Hence, all that they talk about is food by Katie. Yeah, and I mean, so I can see that in the in this instance, and even in an instance where your child does have certain. I mean, that would be part of their mannerisms. Like you said, if they're just a picky kid, I was a picky kid too. I'd be like, I'm not going to eat mushrooms because they're a fungus. And I heard they're a fungus. And then, I didn't even know what a fungus was, probably. And my parents would be like, she's so weird. Like, what's wrong with her? And then come home, I'm going to be a vegetarian. And I knew that you don't eat meat. My parents were like, why does she not want to eat meat? Like, she's weird. I heard them talking about me behind my back. I'm like, I'm not weird. I just don't want to eat meat. And mushrooms are a fungus. Now, I mean, I've changed my eating habits since I was a kid, but when I was a kid, I was very, finicky. Okay, 306 or 308. Thanks, Robini. I wanted to make sure that I got that time right because I remember him showing again like the morning time, but yeah, what was on Mob Crew. Yeah, that's where I got. See, that's where I got this one, and then this one, and this one. Oh, and one of my all-time favorites, this one. Crispy spends all his time trolling through YouTube. And then this one, this one is a forced collaboration. I hope Chris doesn't mind. I hope neither. This one I added SF to this one, and I says like Katie ran to Texas Roadhouse with this guy to get the footage of her and her son eating. Why? So, SF looks so pissed in that one. It's really funny. All right. I'll behave. See, I'm getting slap happy too. That's what happens. Hey, momming it up. Good to see you. Aw. Aw, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. Aw, thanks, mommin. Not a crow, lol. Damn it, probably 50. Joe, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I don't know. I'm like, is a European guy the one? I know. I'm trying to be politically correct over here, and there we go. That's what you get when I'm politically correct over here. You get not politically correct. Right? Yeah, American. Yeah. Well, I don't know what they call us over there, but that's funny anyway. I still think his sister Melissa is involved with this in my opinion. I do too, Meow. I do too. And I love all types of people, guys. I'm just like, if you have an accent, I'll listen to you all day because I just love hearing the different, accents. Oh, good night, Lori. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Thank you. CP admitted he even open hand hits Faith. Yeah, abusers never change. He did. He did admit that. Yeah. He said he was like, yeah, I'd spank her with a belt, and then he told this to Terry Lynn. Terry Lynn says, well, what do you do with Faith for in terms of disciplining her, right? And he said, she goes, do you use a belt on her? And he's like, yeah. And then he changed it. He's like, oh no, I use an open hand on her because, she's younger, whatever. I mean, it's so silly. And she's a little girl. Sweet Dragon Dreams, Lori. Aw, that's cute, Town Chat. Coffee Crime and Cat says, I still haven't enough time believing someone or an entity would risk multiple felonies and doing hard time hiding him. I mean, I think so too. If somebody's hiding him, oh Lord help them. They've got to be, and that's the thing too. I would think whoever is doing that is got to be so nervous every day. Talk about walking on eggshells. Talk about a guilty conscience. Talk about always having to be perfect because you're going to get caught. I mean, definitely. It is hard to believe. It's hard for me to believe because I would never be able to keep up with that. I just wouldn't. I'd be making a phone call, you know. And Seth has said it before too, guys. If you please, if you have him, drop him off somewhere. He's my son. I need him. I mean, he's said it. He has said it. Pamela Roberts, good to see you. I believe KP met up with Mama Sucks after the Texas Roadhouse at the service station. Yeah, Pamela Roberts, you could very well be right about that. Because we were speculating on that. Mr. and Mrs. E went over and took a gander for us, right? Took us with them. Hindsight and Mama Marissa and Voices of Truth talked about it as well. Yeah, statement analysis can be the behavioral panel guys also, besides Christy. Yeah, well, and I did watch I think it was the behavioral panel. I didn't agree with their assessment. It's kind of hard though. You have like, what is it, 4 or 5 behavioral specialists up there, and thought my diamond was in Nova Scotia. Chris told Seth on Web Sleuths that he should have told him, Katie, that he told Sebastian, but the whole downside is the conversation never happened. So if they knew, Sebastian would still be with us. Well, I know, and people have speculated on those linguistics right there too, Mama Bear, you're right. And I mean, it makes me wonder, and then also saying, oh, if we had $1 million, also, if you want to find Sebastian, go to church. He said so many like messed up things as if he knows. He's toying with us all. I mean, it's very apparent. It's just like the serial killers that will, write in letters, right, and taunt the police. Detroit Rock City says, I hate change. I love the same routine. When something interferes, it messes me up totally. I know, Detroit. I'm like that too, though, in a lot of ways. Like, I'm kind of go with the flow, but I also like to know. I like things to be, predictable. I like to know what to expect. I enjoy that much better than when things are chaotic, and so I can totally understand why anybody would feel that way. Deborah says, yes, that was Katie with the flashlight running through the back house grass area to bring something to another person with the flashlight at the car. And yes, her bathroom light was on. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's you could see it clear as day. 3:06 prior to walking around outside, right? Like right before, and then in the morning it was off. Steve tried to cover it up from people. I agree. He was paid a heck of a lot of money to do it. He certainly was. Is that the case? Then why keep it from Seth? Well, and that's true. I think they would have dropped him off someplace by now. I do. I will say that. I mean, I can see that as being a strong possibility. Or if someone had him, they may take the opportunity to just drop him off somewhere, or, but they could be afraid to be getting caught as well. And I hate speculating on what could be happening to Sebastian because it breaks my heart, Coffee, crime, and cats. Oh, Chase Hughes is squared away, career analyst. Okay. I'll have to check that person out. He is German. Damon's German. Okay, I was thinking he had like a Germanish accent, but I didn't want to. Okay, so bedroom light on, then off, then lights out, and car lights. So Katie looking for a jacket or shoes to go meet the car. Well, and see, that's the thing. I think that's when they were forgetting the shoes part. And I do want to show that too with the shoes. I won't forget about doing that. Good night, Ann Reynolds. Thank you for being here. Hey, Kylie's Nail Candy. Good to see you. Aw, no, we're still going. We are still going. He plays word games. He does. Deborah says, and the PTSD with anxiety also will trigger a person, especially if the person has high functioning autism. I agree with that, Deborah. I do. I do. Hey, Red Eye LAX Sebastian, good to see you, and thank you so much for sending the Cash App. I just realized it today. I remembered you saying it when I saw it, and then I was like, oh my goodness. So I hope you got the heart. Thank you so much. Momming it up. I'm doing my best I can. All good, and more iron infusions. Oh, handsome tool. All right, guys, here we go. I'm going to play this next part of Peter.
But self-preservation is blocking that. And this is why my belief on stepfather's involvement is so important. They discussed it. That was the conversation that she had a need, and he did too, to say took place. Now, they, of course, he's obviously clever. He knows that they're going to be able to look at their phones and say, oh, there was a 3-hour conversation the night that 15-year-old with special needs went missing. But I also have the gap of missing information of that evening, somewhere after dinner, and between 6 a.m. there's missing information means deliberately withheld information. And so that key has always been from the moment it happened, you know what? Put aside everything. And I think it's too late at this point, but put aside everything. Your child is missing. Tell police everything. Okay. There was probably a blow up of some form, or you foolishly locked him out. Face consequences with that, but tell the truth. Because even if he is deceased, he deserves a proper and respectful burial. And even if it was unintended and just foolish anger, because you've seen the anger of the stepfather, I can imagine what he said on the phone to them in 3 hours, to her in 3 hours. Sebastian deserves better. So, Seth, thank you for joining. That is, I believe, the key, at least to somewhere that investigators need to go back with her, re-interview, passing a polygraph of saying, I didn't cause his death and I don't know where he is. This is different. The information has to be learned. These are common interviews that are done. Even as stepfather's ex-wife spoke, in a child protective interview, everything is on the table. Seth, your life is put under a microscope. Everyone's life, where can he be safe? You know, if he's found alive, where can he be safe? So all is fair. All is out there. I don't believe it's anything to do with slinging mud, but to give a portrait of what Sebastian was living under. I mean, is there anyone present that would like to live under stepfather's rule from what we've heard?
No.
From what we've heard out of his own mouth, is there anyone that would say, hey, sounds like a good parent to me? Would anyone let him babysit your cat? Some comments from you, Seth.
Hell to the no.
I was pretty much here just to listen to you.
Okay.
You have a lot more experience and stuff, and I appreciate you having me on the panel, and I appreciate your insight. And
Does any of it sound crazy to you?
No. I was married to her for a long time, and you're right on a lot of key factors. You're right on. You know, I believe that she did not open up at the beginning. Reading her body language while I was there, she's not telling everything. I just don't know how long she's going to continue before she decides she's going to unburden herself.
I hope that I hope she breaks. I hope she breaks because maybe it will give investigators insight into changing course in terms of what they were looking for. Because there are certain things that aren't making sense. But I heard from you about his experience with bare feet. And we, obviously the sneakers or shoes has played quite a role in all this. And then I heard stepfather talk a lot. And that's the language of an abuser. And that's when I thought they maybe been trying to teach him some lesson how to be a man and go out there with his bare feet or something. Something happened that night, an altercation of some form of which they have coordinated their accounts together since then. And so my hope is that maybe if there is a break in the relationship, maybe the maternal instincts will take over and she'll say, here's what happened. I don't want to hold this burden any longer. And I didn't intend for it to end as it did, but here's what happened. That's what I'm hoping for.
I can only hope. I still pray that my son's alive.
Yeah.
And the sooner she unburdens herself, the sooner we can either find him, triangulate on a course of action.
I understand that you're trying to work together.
I'm hoping that she'll work together. I'm hoping that both her and Chris will actually start working with me so that I can work with them. I mean, that was pretty much the whole discussion last night before the vigil. And I do hope that they actually work with me.
If my child goes missing, my first call is to police. My second call is to biofather. A great comment. I mean, it's just so common, such a natural reaction. Seth came to listen, that was what he said. And he is in need of working with others. So otherwise I'd be asking a lot of questions. Though I don't think you have many answers, Seth.
I don't. I've had a lot of questions since this has started.
Were you there that night?
The answers.
Were you there that night?
I wasn't.
Who was there that night?
Katie and Sebastian.
Yeah, and that's where the key lies is in a mother that was there telling the truth. Jason's an analyst, thinks she should be interviewed more without Chris around. Yeah, I certainly agree. There should be I think if they know anyone that she is close to, that she would confide in. In terms of criminality, there may not be there. It may not be considered criminal behavior in the sense that there was a fight or something took place. Without Sebastian to testify, there's probably not going to be any consequences. My hope is just come out and talk. Come out and talk to the investigators. And as Jason said, alone, and come clean with it. She needs to come clean with it. 2 months now. No one, I think, can argue with Annie P. She'll never talk with Chris in her ear. No, I mean, he's obviously concerned about the connection to his other case going on. He's concerned about his reputation, and he's willing to really go after people who don't believe him with anger and rage. So if you've seen that, you can probably consider what it was like for Sebastian with his difficulties, living under someone with that type of anger. Are you working now, Seth?
No, I haven't gone back to work. It's really hard to think about anything but my son.
Yeah. It's understood.
Hey,
Here's a
Coupon,
couple
good
more
to see
comments.
you.
And if you're lying, you're not cooperating. Exactly. Exactly. You know, there's a time to come clean, and there's a time to talk about what happened. There may be some little detail that they don't, Katie doesn't even recognize if she unburdens herself. That's like, oh, we've got to go this direction or that direction. Because I think that either at this point, 2 months, it's either he fell trouble in a natural sense of water, ditches, that sort of thing, or he was taken after being put out of that house.
And really quick, guys, I just wanted to pop on here too. Deborah, there is video allegedly of the trash being taken to the end of the driveway, but no one can really make out who the person is. According to Seth, it's too grainy and dark to tell. And that was also what we heard from Bobby, the neighbor, that it's just really, really difficult to tell who's actually taking out the trash. Yeah, we can only go by KP and Seth saying it does. Absolutely. The only other theory Deborah says she thinks is that Sebastian was rehomed until he's 18. Yeah, I mean, everything is possible. Robini says Seth said he couldn't say it was Sebastian. KP says FBI verified it was Sebastian. So, well, and those are the only two people that have said that, right? Well, Eric Craddock had alluded to that, right? Told that to the Heather PI. And then Katie said that the FBI verified it. But I don't believe any of that. I believe Seth over what Katie has to say any day, because I've caught Katie in numerous inconsistencies, and that's not the case with Seth, in my opinion. So, who has the surveillance? Because I want to see it for myself. It would have been the Ring camera from across the street of the neighbor. The neighbor directly across the street had a Ring camera that was pointing, outwards toward the Proudfoot residence. So, I know, not I. And Deborah Bennett says, and who's going to believe Katie's word? Not I. Rabini. Oh, me too.
Anything that when someone tells the truth, and I don't have the answer, but that is the key. When someone tells the truth, who was present, that one person, when they tell the truth, sometimes they give out a detail that seems so insignificant, and it proves to be the outworking. With the Nathan Carmen case, there was just a minor detail of taking a wrench and, just tightening something on the boat or loosening it. So there would be trouble, sabotaging it. But some minor detail like that can lead investigators to go at least a direction, which seems to be very difficult. So that was a good comment. See some of the others. In the interview, I saw the feeling of guilt in the face of the mom. Kirsten, was that recently, the recent interview? I thought that she, besides I didn't like the language in the sense that it was very tight. And it appeared to me that, wow, she's learned the lesson of social media. But I also thought I saw a little bit of guilt in that face as well. Like maybe not guilt, but regret. Regret. Time to tell the truth. And Seth, if you've come just to listen, and I appreciate coming on, I'm not throwing the questions out that coming into the chat. Just some of the things. The most recent interview, KP looks like she's reading off the script. I agree. That was my opinion. Which means, if I'm her and I'm getting the scripted message, one of the things about that was it was clear to me that she had the questions beforehand, and her answers were, came very easily that way. But it also showed me she's intelligent. She learned from social media. Remember that time that one of the interviews where he allowed her to actually speak and answer a couple of questions? I think the drama that goes on behind the scenes, that people are upset, and rightfully so. And I think that everyone wants Sebastian found. Everybody wants him to be alive. But, we're not living the nightmare. Any other questions?
I think this lady's talking about the Reels interview where Katie does look like she's reading off a script. She also looked like that over on Nancy Grace as well.
So that would be something that hopefully the initial investigation knows about, or the clothes that Sebastian wore to the restaurant that's still in the house. Hopefully they've collected enough evidence. I don't think that needs comment. It's just our hope that the investigation was going well.
No throwing rocks in the chat, Detroit.
These are good questions.
I'm just kidding.
Was he wearing shoes when he took out the trash? These are good questions. But my hope is that we don't need to toss them around, because investigators would have asked these things. And if it was missed early on, they can go back. I don't know I haven't worked with that department. I don't know that I've had much contact over the years, anything with Tennessee, but some places that lack experience, like a smaller town, a small location, it's kind of a nice thing that they don't have that going on. But you do have to call in help from others. Here's one question I would like to answer. It scrolls by pretty quickly. I'm doing my best that I try to get that. But someone asked about the statement of, when they're finally reaching out to him, you're not in trouble. That was a great question. I'm sorry I can't post it there. That shows someone's listening and there was trouble. Otherwise, it wouldn't be said. So very good observation. Again, I think I've said this before, and I'll do it again here. If you get a chance, there's a video on YouTube of one of the most brilliant minds I've ever had the pleasure of dealing with, Frank Marsh. He was an instructor at the FBI National Academy and military background. And he has a video, it's old. It's called The Power of Questions. And it's something that it's not just for investigators, it really is for life itself. And I can't recommend it more highly. It's impacted me greatly. He had invited me to the FBI National Academy a number of years ago, where I was able to bring my daughter. My wife had my daughter, Christina, and especially during lunch when she had a full chance to talk with him. She was so impressed, and it was life-changing how powerful questions are. And that's what we want to ask. Yeah, thanks, Lana. He's a brilliant mind, and it is the most powerful element within analysis, criminal analysis, statement, everything is to ask questions. And that's some of the basic questions is, why do you need to tell me you're a good mom if nothing bad happened?
I know you're not a behavioral analysis, but do you think she'll die on that pedestal?
I don't know her enough, Seth, to give an answer. I agree with some of the people commenting that I do think that relationship is going to break. That's his pattern anyway. You might have a better insight into that if he's not around. That would be my hope. You know, if any parent can lose their temper, any parent can. I've done shaken baby cases where they've been prosecuted. And generally speaking, no one that I ever interviewed woke up and say, oh, today I'm going to shake my baby. They lose it in a moment, and the life is forever altered, and the child is damaged or deceased. And it's a horrible, horrible thing.
It is absolutely a horrible, horrible thing. And I agree with Peter. You know, everybody can lose their temper. Nobody, you know, knows what to do all the time. I just, you know, sometimes it just, if you know that you have a temper like that, you know, please go get some help, guy. You know, anybody that knows that their temper gets away from them, you know, especially if you have little kids, because kids can't help it, guys. They're still learning. So break in the relationship, we're hoping for a break in the relationship. That's where they kind of left off and, you know, circled back around to, right? Between Katie and Chris, and then Katie's maternal instincts might kick back in, right? But I don't foresee that happening quite like that, because I think there's too much involvement in everyone involved. Everyone, you know, everybody that's involved is way too involved now, right? 18 months in. So I think that people are keeping tight-lipped, because if one person starts talking, that's it, right? But another person had mentioned in the chat, and this is my way of thinking, first thing I would do is call 911. Second thing I would do is I would get the other bio parent on the phone, right? It's only right. Besides, if my spouse is working 3.5 hours away, or 3 hours away, or 2 hours away, or even an hour away, he's not going to be able to get there fast enough anyway. He's not the father. Seth is his father, right? Leave Seth with more questions than answers, right? All of this does, and I can just tell, you know, he's going through it, right? Just leaves him with more questions than answers. Peter Hyatt asked Seth, who was there? Seth says Katie and Sebastian. He asks him, were you there? He said, no, I was not, right? Peter wants KK alone to come clean. What was it like for Sebastian living with Chris and Katie? Probably horrible. If I'm judging by the dinner with Katie, horrible. If I'm judging by the way that Katie treats Sebastian and talks about him, horrible. If I'm judging by the way that Chris Proudfoot has talked about Sebastian, how he's disciplined, air quotes, you guys can't see him, Sebastian, no, it was horrible for him. Horrible. Let's not forget, Seth came out and told us all, if we could read the CPS reports, we would not be able to sleep at night, right? Now, Peter Hyatt talks about this small detail. This is so important, right? A small detail, but it's a significant break, right? Only the person involved would know. So it just takes that one little thing. And Deborah, just to answer your question, you know, they have not made that publicly available. If the neighbor wanted to do that, they could do that. The police are not going to, in my opinion. You know, unfortunately, that Ring camera from across the street. But yeah, guys, just that one little detail. And we know, they have to be perfect every day. We just have to be perfect one time, right? That's it. Joe, don't say that. Aw. I know Chris is Peter Hyatt had a list that CP fits. I know, Little Miss Sharon, to a T. I mean, talk about being on target, right? Very well done. And he does another video on Chris's behaviors too. Very interesting.
I'm hoping that they will split and that she will want to clear her conscience. And even if it's that foolish, well, we decided to, not let this behavior go on any longer, so I put him outside, and he has to get over, I wanted him to get over his fear without the shoes on, or something like that. Something went wrong, and someone just commented, something snapped. Something snapped. And when you hear this guy's anger and the language of abuse and the language of domestic violence, it's like, what did your son live under? It's hard enough being a 15-year-old without any issues like autism. What did he live under? Here's something of interest, probably down the road, but yeah, civil litigations bring depositions and questions are asked. Questions are asked. And even when someone ducks a question, that gives us information. So a good comment, that girl. Are you being bothered at all by people claiming to have all sorts of psychic powers and magical insight?
I mean, people try that stuff. I got so tired of people stating that my son was dead. I mean, that just they don't have any clue what that stuff does to a person's faith and hope that their child is alive. I refuse to listen to that stuff anymore. As soon as somebody says, hey, there's this psychic, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. I have to have faith that my son is alive. And I have to have faith that she'll tell me.
I do terribly regret giving bold opinions on this. I don't wish to add to your pain any longer. With the world of psychics and whatever wording anyone wants to use, it's fine. There's been some real damage done at times with parents who were vulnerable. I can't imagine being any more vulnerable than not being able to find my son and being able to hear someone. It would be just too much. Too much. That's why we call it predatory.
The best thing that I can say is I don't have social media. All I have is YouTube. And when I literally logged into YouTube to listen to some cryptid stories so I could lay down and try to sleep for about another hour or two, I saw yours was getting ready to come on. And I listened to all yours. I enjoy that. I enjoy listening to you, whether you bring good information or bad information. Emotionally, I still like to listen to you. You're an expert. I consider you an expert. You are an expert.
I hope that we get good news. I think each day means it's more difficult to have hope. I pray for all of you, including not just Sebastian and you, but for mother and stepfather. I just like the truth to come out, and if there's anything within that truth that can bring this along, that's where it's going to lie. That person of whom Sebastian was with, and there was no one else in the house, that person knows more than they've let on. And Katie, if you're listening, God forgive you, but come forward and talk. Talk for Sebastian's sake, and really for your own as well. Well, thank you for coming on, Seth.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Continue to press on the best you can. And I know it's got to be tough, especially not getting a paycheck from work. And I think at this point, that probably is not big on your list of priorities. But people that sometimes are able to work, at least they can be distracted, at least get a respite for a few minutes on that type of pain that you experience. It's rough. Thank you for coming on, and we continue to hope against hope.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, guys, so that was, the conclusion to the Peter Hyatt interview. And, with Seth, and Seth mainly just sat there listening, which I would probably do the same. I would just want to listen to what Peter had to say about it. Now, that did happen, Rabini, too, April 21st, 2024. And I agree, Bubby, his voice is so soothing, really soothing. Yeah, Katie, come forward. I know, little Miss Sharon. Well, and I mean, we just know for sure she was there, right? That's the whole thing. We know for sure she was there. So, I mean, if we only have that much. Oh, darn, Bubby. Let me see if I can't. I was trying to figure that out too, because I know I can do it from my iPhone. Let me see. I think it was like the studio or something. I have my iPhone. Let me see if I can't do that. Oh, close. Oh, this phone's about to die. I have double phones. Let me see. Trying to think. No, I don't want that. Because I know I've sent them over. Oh, here we go. Okay, let's see. Invite viewers. All right, let me see. Okay, here we go. Let me see if I can't pull it up on my email and try it that way. Because I know I have it. But what did you guys think of that? I mean, that was a while back, right before the CPS reports, because I know the CPS reports came out a little bit later. Unfortunately, I hate that Seth had to get those. Okay, let me see. This should be the iPhone link since it came from there. So it should be that one, I think, guys. I think I need to put them all on a clipboard and get organized here, Bubby, but I think that's the one. Pretty sure. Hopefully it works. I know me and Mimo were having a heck of a time getting together, and trying to her to get an email to me. We finally did it. But I just kind of want to reiterate a few things that Peter was talking about too, in terms of, just Katie's overall demeanor, right? And then the big time lapse. Those are the major takeaways for me, right? Just Katie not acting instinctually like we would expect a mother to act. And then also when it comes to, the way that she proceeds, right? With not giving us all of the information. she won't even give Seth the information, right? So he can have a peace of mind about it or anything. Hey, Elisa P, good to see you. Yeah, KP was giving custodial rights over Sebastian. They had joint custody, but I feel like because Tennessee laws are completely different than California, perhaps Tennessee would refuse to. Yeah, and that's the thing too. There may have been some more litigation that had gone on after that, with family court. I agree, Lisa P. Definitely. Good to see you. Rob Beanie says shared parenting they had from divorce papers says that they have to provide location and get approval from one another if they stay longer than 4 days. Okay, so I wasn't sure about that in the parenting plan. Thank you, Robini. Yeah, intercede if Katie rehomes Sebastian. That is possible, in my opinion, especially with the connection CP's family has. Well, and it would explain a lot of Katie's demeanor, not being worried about where Sebastian is, right? If you don't, if you know where something is, that's why you're not looking for it. That was kind of the takeaway to here, you know. So hiding him without Seth's knowledge is custodial interference. Having a child hidden somewhere without access to doctors, schooling, etc., are crimes. Yeah, who if somebody has Sebastian, oh boy. Oh, hey, Deborah Bennett. Did you guys did somebody come in? Oh, thank you, little Miss Sharon, for gifting a Lady Freedom's Raw Narratives membership. Oh, great. Well, welcome to the Dragon Tribe, Deborah Bennett. Welcome to the Dragon Tribe. Yay, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, little Miss Sharon. Detroit says because KP and CP didn't want to mess with it anymore, in my opinion. It just makes me wonder. Oh, here's your comment, Detroit. But why hide him from his father? That doesn't make any sense at all. Why would you risk everything to just uh, intentionally hurt someone like that? Either way, it's still a crime. Yeah, and I get that. Yeah, good to see you too, Lisa P. I mean, and I get that. It is strange, but like a lot of people were speculating, and even it came out at trial that Adam Montgomery could have hurt Harmony because he didn't like her mom, right? Wanted to hurt her mother. She looked just like her mom, Crystal Sorey, and in my opinion, like a little mini her, right? And then people were saying that, also, I think that was where the dynamic was, even with that Chad Dorman, right? That executed his 3 little boys right in front of their mama. Now, he did leave her daughter that they didn't have in common. If anything, Sebastian had to be disappeared to cover up crimes. That's one of my big guesses too, Joe. As we got into it more, that was one of the stronger theories, in my opinion. And I do think that too, Lisa P. They wanted to be free of any responsibility, and we also hear Chris bragging about how they're kidless, like he told that to the McCoys. So Coffee Crime and Cat says spending that kind of money on him doesn't seem like CP. Something CP would do. Oh, I hear that. Well, and if he did, she's never going to hear the end of it. He's like, I paid for it. It's like, oh, Lord, please. If Sebastian moved to Seth's, KP would still have him every other weekend and holidays. They didn't want him at all, in my opinion. Yeah, Elisa, I see that. Absolutely. I do. Just the way Katie was so dismissive at the Texas Roadhouse. Still all illegal, Robini. Still all illegal. How about Katie straight out of the gate bragging on how great of a dad Seth was for the cameras, but she couldn't stand him? I think Chris told her to brag on Seth so no one looked at it. Well, sure. And there was the pact, Katrina, very good point. There was the pact, right? And because Seth didn't want to get on board with the pact, it was an issue, in my opinion. A big one. Yeah. Deborah says, yeah, I agree with Alicia. Elisa and Chris was fed up, and Seth would not approve. Well, and then the child support aspect too, that always kind of came into play with me as well. Um, and I agree, Sebastian would still be partly, because nothing was, as far as I know at this point, nothing was going to change over with custody, right? It was going to stay 50-50, and so that, but that's still wherever the child's primarily at. I think it would change over, especially with Sebastian having, special needs and things like that. Um, yeah, I agree with Alicia. Chris was fed up. Oh, sorry, I just read that one. Aw, that was my stepdaughter. Aw, how sweet, little Miss Sharon. That's wonderful. Will you tell her I said thank you so much? Aw, they did coffee. If they did it, though, CPS, like a relative who worked at CPS arranged it, or a church friend arranged it through a nonprofit, it cost them nothing. Yeah, and that's the scary part, Elisa. They will take these kids. I mean, in the middle of the night, the whole 9 yards. Chris wanted only Faith. Faith has her own bedroom and lives there now. Yeah, well, I mean, it's my understanding that they totally redid Faith's bedroom after the fact. Yeah, Chad only his sons, and then the daughter was a step, and she escaped. Exactly, little Miss Sharon. Exactly. And just think how horrible that would have been. Yeah, she was the one that kind of was alerting everybody and calling for help, and oh, the poor dear, you know. I'm still torn between a few possibilities as well, coffee, crime, and cats. I mean, because we just don't know. If we had more information, we could put the pieces together a little bit more coherently, in my opinion. But a lot of the speculation, I think, does stem from some of the things that we do know from what they've said. Although it's hard because they also have not been as truthful as we would have liked them to be. Yeah, I'm not sure which it is either, Elisa P. I don't. CP and KP wanted a clear slate, no mess stuff, in my opinion. Right. Yeah, and they're happy to be around Faith, so I see where you guys are saying that. Oh, neither had to pay support, Rob Beanie. Okay, I did hear that. You're right. Yeah, good point. Good point. Katrina says, in my opinion, he's not been rehomed. I don't think it was planned. I think she lost her temper on him that night. It was a long, stimulating day for both of them, and she's missing her man, drinking, and lost it. Well, and the drinking is a big one, right? Because we have heard about Katie getting violent when she drinks. That's a big one, Katrina. Really good point. Yes, because Sebastian. Yes, because if Sebastian went to live with Seth permanently, Katie and Chris would have had to pay child support. I don't know, because I thought I did read that there was an agreement that there wasn't any. Elisa says, I think with how manipulative and cunning KP and CP and the family are, I feel like they could have finagled any or the next to anything. I think so too. They have a lot of connections, guys, a lot. I mean, even in the sheriff's department, in my opinion, at least second degree. Yeah, yeah. Not if it stayed to be the share parenting. I got you. Like, but if one only had custody full time, yeah. I mean, gosh, anything would be better than taking his life, though. You would think they would readily pay whatever it was per month. Oh, Chad Dorman and the stepdaughter. Thank you, little Miss Sharon. I thought you meant that your stepdaughter had gifted the membership. That's too funny. Sorry. Oh boy, you can tell I'm getting a little tired. Oh yeah, I thought that a while back when I first learned about that connection. John Chat says to Elisa. There was no child support awarded in their divorce, Elisa says. Yeah, and I do remember that now. which, I mean, if both parents are okay, then there shouldn't be really. I mean, especially because Katie made so much more, and then Seth was looking for work, and then he found work, and so it was back and forth. That was arranged because Katie was getting custody, but what about is Seth get if he did get custody? Well, he might want, yeah, and I mean, because you can go back to family court and get modifications. I really do think it was absolutely planned as well. I do. I wish we could see the paperwork on this case like the RCMP just released on Jack and Lily. Oh, did they just release some paperwork, Robbie? That's interesting. Yeah, I'd like to go over that. Poor Jack and Lily, guys. And what are the odds of two little ones going missing? I mean, my lord. There's too much coordination for this not to be planned. I agree, Elisa P, and I think there's main players in it too, right? And I think that's why everybody's been so quiet. That's how they've managed it, and no one's going to talk on each other, right? Because they're all, in cahoots. They're all family. It's in the family. It's an inside job, in the family. Well, and he could have been, Deborah, he could have been rehomed permanently, or they tried to. But he's just so much older. I do consider this too, with him being 15 when this all happened, just turned 15, really. I just wonder, because I mean, it's not like they're going to be able to Men in Black him, right? I mean, so he's going to remember who he is and where he came from. Like even little Stevie Stainer, he knew who he was the whole time. That guy changed his name and dyed his hair, but he knew his name was Stevie the whole time. He never forgot that. He never forgot his parents. He just kind of had to go along with everything because he didn't have a choice. He was surviving. There's no way in hell I'd keep someone's child and risk my freedom. I don't care who you are. Oh, same here. Well, and I consider that as well. I consider how deep the corruption would have to be for someone to participate in that as well. Because I've also thought about, would somebody chance their livelihood just to help the profit? And it depends. Again, I think it really does depend on how deep the corruption runs. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, I just thought of something. The way Mama Socks could have paid SF. Maybe she paid for school until he's 18. I mean, I can see her being the one to foot the bill. Absolutely. Especially if it's like friends, I do think that, Elisa, I do. If it's something they set up like through nonprofit, like a church, or, I've talked it over too with friends, even, even a medical facility that would want to study Sebastian in terms of his rare chromosome deletion, something like that, where, because they do studies where they actually pay people to be there and things like that. We just don't know what kind of, sick people I mean, we know what kind of sick people we're dealing with. We just don't know the extent of, what they're willing to go to, really. 500 pages. Wow. Oh, Rob Beanie, those poor babies. And they were saying that they didn't think that they were alive in the very beginning. The RCMP, that is, was saying, Jack and Lily are probably no longer with us. How sad. Little Miss Sharon says, in Australia, a guy threw his daughter off a main bridge in Melbourne. Oh, also a guy drove his 3 little children into a dam, all to spite the mom. Oh my goodness, little Miss Sharon. So nothing is off the table, right, for CP and KP, right? I mean, those are the things that I think about too. Like that, any of those things could be a possibility, right? Katie stays back, right? She's going to need help from other people, right? And they all get together to help. That's just what they do, that's kind of how they operate. Deborah says the thud. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would only it would only be for 3 years. Yeah. Yeah, it'd only be for 3 years. A small detail. It's just a small detail, right? It's the littlest thing. If Seth had him, KP would still have him on the weekends and holidays. Oh, I think I read that one. Thanks, Detroit. Sorry. I scrolled up or something because I was coming. Okay, here we go. Brother-in-law builds secret rooms, Robini. Oh my gosh, I'm still, yeah, he could be right under their nose, in my opinion, and could be just doing all right. That's what made me think of like the food being important. Like, say people are going out and buying Sebastian's favorite things, right, or something to keep him, calm. People that are going out and buying fidget spinners that don't, that are being taken to kind of care for him. Say he, any of that could be happening. Somebody that shouldn't be buying those items is, could be a good clue. Because, yeah, that's worrisome. Yeah, his mother didn't even take him to Disneyland. I don't think she liked him that much. I know, Coffee, Crime, and Cats. So sad. You know? It is so sad. Rosebud says if a good investigation is going on, one thing they would look at and follow is any kind of money exchange or activity. I agree, Rosebud. Sometimes it takes years. Yeah. Uh, I agree that if they are investigating, they're going to need, to do forensics on them financially, right? Just go through and make sure there wasn't any big transfers of money. I agree. Any activity, really, any of it, because we talked about how simple it was just to buy the burner phones, right? And then they're not even associated to you at all. It's a true burner, cash, paid for in cash, activated by the clerk, right? Just very easy, simple. There you go. And you can buy multiple of those and do that, the same way, and then everybody has a communication, and then everybody throws them out, and then you buy new ones, right? But those transactions are still there. There's still people on camera buying the phones. We just don't know who these people are, is the problem. Because I do believe it was a coordinated effort. Yeah. Yeah, and and that is a good thing and a bad thing in a way. Lisa says it requires warrants in Tennessee. In Tennessee, judges don't give warrants without ample evidence tying people to that crime. Yeah, because there's got to be probable cause, right? The probable cause affidavit has to be given to the courts, and they have to approve it to make it a legal search, and to make it a legal, not an illegal one, a legal search and seizure, right? Sebastian loved electronics. Sebastian may not have wanted to go to Disneyland. I think he would have liked it though, Deborah. You know why? Because they have all that Star Wars stuff. I think he would have loved it. I wouldn't have been able to go without him. It would have broke my heart too bad. Warrants don't just get granted in that state like that, like they do in other states. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think that that's a good thing and a bad thing, I mean, because obviously I don't want my rights to be trampled on, but then also, it does make it harder. But I do think that there should be evidence against somebody if you're going to, search their home like that. So it's tough. It's tough. She's very emotionless, Katrina. Whatever tears was seen seemed to be forced like an act. Well, and even the way she was doing the crying and stuff like that, town chat. I know. I'm gonna have to be drinking coffee after this. I'm probably gonna be hopping off, just because I got to get that information over and uh, work on some things for tomorrow morning. I doubt it. I doubt it. I doubt it, Elisa P. I don't think the warrants were ever sought for those things. I don't think so either. I think they asked permission from the proud to do that, and whether they granted it or not, and most of the time, I think Chris and Katie were very careful about, that, exercising their rights over the well-being of Sebastian. Because I agree with Peter Hyatt, it's a cover your own ass situation. Hey, couponing, good to see you. I saw you earlier. Dog in the at night said that they were large, unexplained money transfers allegedly. Yes, I remember that. I do remember that. And I mean, I think there's enough to build a case, circumstantial, although it is a high profile case, When you hit your knees tonight, ask Peter to send up something through Jesus and all of the angels. Oh, Rosebud, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm also going to be writing a letter, guys, that if you want to copy and paste it, and into your own letter and stuff like that, you can do that. I'm working on that as well. I think Sebastian is way too smart and would have gotten away by now. He knows his father's number and he would do anything to get to his dad unless they have him in chains and gagged. He's smart. Yeah, I understand that, Detroit. I do. I think you're right. I think he would probably try to outsmart whoever had him. I do. I do think he would. In my opinion, she was acting like a Mama Haro, right? Yeah, with her phoniness. I do too, Town Chat. I do too. Absolutely. If you want an idea for a thumbnail title, go check out Facebook Messenger. Okay, I will, Town Chat. I will. A mother leaves the home with a missing child, in my opinion. Yeah, no mother does that, NeuroV. I agree. What mother does that? It's weird. And then there were like earlier when we were listening about, were you on vacation? Well, that they needed a follow-up question, did you go on vacation? Did you leave town? Because they did. But then they would have said something like, oh yeah, because everyone's bashing us and there's disgusting YouTubers that are going to do this or that or whatever. Well, not really. I don't think the DA had the gonads to seek warrants. I mean, I'm right there with you. He was intimidated by the family, in my opinion. And we hear that all the time with all of it. Everybody's been threatened in this case. Or if you haven't been threatened yet, you're not deep enough into it. I agree, Elisa. The large money transfers could be for Sebastian to be rehomed. I agree with that too. It could have been for anything, right? It really could have been. And I don't know when those were. I'm gonna have to go back and look at that and see when the transfers happened. That would be a beautiful outcome for sure. All we can do is pray that comes true. Yeah, I mean, I'm always praying and hoping for the best, guys. That's all. I mean, but I know, I understand the reality. Um, I just wish I knew what they could have done with him next, right? I think they looked at KP's finances and Seth's, but not CP's or his family's. Yeah, and they really need to be looking into everyone, especially the Foot Clan, in my opinion. But I mean, money will always leave that trail. It's very difficult these days to kind of get away without leaving a digital trail of money, or where was this big transaction, this big withdrawal of money, and that sort of thing. So it's tough. But I really enjoyed going over this with you guys tonight. I would like to pull in the call, even that Jay was playing of Seth. Oh, sorry, Lisa. I really would, and just go over that too sometime, because there was a lot of information in there. Some really good anecdotes, and just hearing from Seth too. I think it's good to hear from the parents again, listen to what they're saying, analyzing it and everything. And I am praying about the new DA, but yes. Let's pray the new DA has the cojones to get all of the questions answered and just any kind of possible corruption. Say our prayers, folks. Yes, Rosebud. It's the only way. It's the only way. You know, pray for clarity for Katie. I do, guys. I mean, I do. I do. I have no hate or malice towards Katie or Chris. I don't like Chris particularly. Like, I don't think we would get along. I think our personalities would clash for sure. And you know, it's really, you know, it is what it is. We're all humans. You know, we're all ourselves. We're all individuals. So, but what I know for sure is that we need to find Sebastian. And we do need people with cojones, Rosebud, and that is what we can do is pray. Really. The family being so elite in that county is the issue here. I agree, Elisa, you know, even with the, you know, the research that we were doing in terms of um, like the pig fest, I couldn't believe, I mean, you know, I did the Sheriff Craddock video. Here, I'll show you really quick because I know we pulled that in. Um, Let me go to my videos really quick and show you guys. I mean, when I did the Eric Craddock video and I pulled in some of the people that he knew, well, I started snapping pictures of the realtors and things like that, right? Because obviously, you know, Chris's mom's a realtor. And so, but just bear with me here. When I was looking into Pigfest, I noticed that Wally Gilliam, real estate and auctioneer here, um, is friends with Eric Craddock, right? So there it is. Let's see. All right. So, oh, I just want to go back one more just so you guys can see it all. Um, all right, here we go. Ooh, Dirty Dancing. All right. So we got, you know, Eric Craddock, right? And he is, let me go to this one so I could point it out, right? Eric Craddock, this is his Facebook. Uh, Senior Chief Petty Officer, Navy Reserve, right? Bethel University, Tennessee, also Arizona State Tempe, studied Northwestern University, lives in Gallatin, Tennessee, right? Married to Angela Craddock. Now, back then I thought I had the wrong lady, right? Um, he wasn't making the snuggle struggle comments and the weird comments to his, you know, wife that he has now. He was making them to an ex-girlfriend, right? Because he is married to Angela Craddock. Now here's another one, Michael Long, real estate, right? Here's Wally Gilliam, right? Here he is right here. Wally Gilliam, Realty and Auction. Okay. Now just bear with me as I add this in. Because they're definitely affiliated. And if he says that he doesn't have anything to do in you know, he's telling everybody he has nothing to do with it, yet he is one of, you know, the sponsors, I would say that that's probably something that, you know, needs to be known, right? I stand with Seth and Sebastian, Freaky Friday. Okay, it was this one. I do declare. Okay, here it is. And you may have to zoom in to see it. Right? But while, oh, hold on. Yeah, there we go. You can probably see that pointer. Okay, so Wally Gilliam, right here, and Wally Gilliam right here. I have to share it. That's friends with Craddock, right? And he's one of the ones that was involved in this Pig Fest emails and everything. Okay? I'm not making it up. I posted this video about Eric Craddock over a year ago. It had to have been, I think. So, yeah. It's just one of those things, guys, where, I mean, I'm not making it up. I wish it wasn't true. I wish it wasn't so. Say it ain't so, you know? Oh, no worries, Bobby. Anytime, hon. Don't be sorry. My goodness, girl. I hope the link worked though. Aw, thanks, Bubby. Okay, Jack and Lily's info is on Justin's. Cool, Robini. Thank you. Everybody hates Chris. That's funny. I've watched that show, but Chris Rock. KP is vile. I agree, Joe. I agree. Cajones. Yes, cajones. We need them. You know, need somebody with them. They're really they're butt heads. They're really butt heads. It is a Scottish name, Elisa P. I thought he was of Native American descent with that name. I did. I can't lie. He hated that his daughter was. Yeah, and that's why I thought it was weird. And then I'm like, maybe he hates his dad or something, where his name came from or something. Then I realized, oh no, it's not that. And they absolutely are elite family, not CP's father's side, but CP's mother's side. I agree. They have all of these people, guys. And then also Live Love Nashville is one of the charities. Live Love Nashville is one of the charities that is benefiting from the Pig Fest. Right? They just are. You see them right here. Live Love Nashville. And sorry, that's a funny face I'm making, but don't pay attention to me. Pay attention over here. Please. But yeah, that's Live Love Nashville right there. And they were the ones that had provided food during Sebastian's search. They just were. Right? So, I mean, I'm not making it up. It is what it is. It's weird. It's strange to me. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to think. You know? The Family Guy. And Bowersox is also Scottish clan surname. Wow. Gosh, I was wondering, it's so weird, like Bowersox Proudfoot, you know? I was thinking that too. Yeah, where's Summer? I know. I know. I thought so too. My mom's grandpa came from Italy, so I'm fourth generation here. That's cool, Robini. Very cool. Yeah, it's very weird. I mean, I just noticed it because we went over the first 7 days and I was like, oh yeah, they were providing, food for the searches. They were big and they were mentioned many times on the news, Lisa P. And we all know about that fake reward they had for $3,000 or whatever in the beginning. I think it was $3,000 or $4,000 from the local business owners. It's just so weird. It's just so weird. Yeah, they arranged it's an arranged Scottish Rite Mason marriage. Oh Lord, help us. Two people from elite Scottish clan families. Yeah. I mean, and it's something to think about, and it's something, I mean, if anything, we were aware of it, Um, oh, cool, Rosebud. Third generation Sicilian here, only half. Oh, that's cool, Rosebud. Yeah. I mean, it's just strange. It's strange the way the whole town is kind of. I mean, I haven't figured it out completely yet, but I'm working on it. You know, I'm making the connections. There's definitely connections to be made. And I mean, I have a lot of the connections that I screenshotted from, Sheriff Snuggle Struggles there. So, but guys, I'm gonna hop off of here and then I'm gonna work on some things for this morning. I'm gonna try to go on really early because I'm just gonna pull an all-nighter. I might as well just now, and then catch some Z's during the day. But I'd like to see you guys too later this morning if you're still awake, or oh, Masons totally do. Elisa P. Oh gosh, I've read so many books on like the symbols and a lot of those secret societies because I used to be really interested in them. Just because of like how secretive they are. Obviously, there's an intrigue, So, there's my Detroit Rock City. I already know we have we have our wonderful Detroit Rock City's Italian. Oh, excuse me, Sicilian and Calabrese. That's right. Uh, yes, and then you have Lady Freedom over here. I'm Mexican American. Well, and then also my mom's side European. So, yeah. Yeah, thank you, Elisa. I'm so glad you were here. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you had caught the whole thing. It's just interesting going back, knowing what we know now. I really do think it's interesting, some of the things. And then it was nice to listen to Peter. I really like his take on things, even though not everything I agree on, but I still like it. So the last of the the last of the Mohicans, Bubby. Aw, thank you, Bubby. You don't have to do that. My goodness. Aw, thank you guys. Hey, Todd Emery, good to see you. I've done extensive research on secret societies also. It's so interesting, isn't it, Elisa? Like, that's the thing that I just found it to be like once I started digging into it, then it was just like on from there, because it was just so interesting. Um, I have to get back to the lab. Get back to that lab. Town Chat Cafe. Yes. Good night. Good night, guys. Thank you. Came from Freemasons. Yeah. I mean, it's not all bad. Aw. Thanks, Bubby. You guys are awesome. You guys all have a wonderful night, and I will see you guys here in a little bit, and we will discuss more true crime. I'm going to go over to and kind of look at maybe some of the information on Jack and Lily because I'm glad that we have something solid that we can go off of. I really hated to speculate on that case too much. I know it was getting pretty wild, so I was trying to kind of stay under the radar. But all right, guys, you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we'll talk to you later.